guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called 10 Ways to Get Rejected by the Tyrant. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! The narrative opens with a young woman pleading and declaring herself Scarlet Armin, the tyrant Carlior's fiancé. This is the setting of The Tyrant Private Life, a romance fantasy book. Emperor Carlior, the novel's protagonist, is a tyrant who engages in horrific deeds. The tyrant meets the female lead, falls in love with her, and changes into a very kind and submissive person toward her. His assistants conceal his personal life from prying eyes. While recalling the story, a young girl is squirming on her pillow. She thinks that if the tyrant becomes a tender person in the end, what is the point of all the killing? Given that the tyrant kills the girl in the middle of the novel, Scarlet considers it fortunate that she arrives before the major plot begins. Scarlet muses as she sits on the bed, saying she can survive if she doesn't harass the main female character. She doubts her ability to deal with the tyrant, though. At that moment, Scarlet understands the tyrant, who just experienced his first love, is a disaster. Throughout the era, the tyrant is the most knowledgeable and youthful swordmaster. Scarlet then starts to scribble down ideas on how to get away from the tyrant. Gaining the tyrant's sympathy is the first thing on her list. But things take a turn for the worst when she realizes that although he may be the wisest man alive, it's not because of his character. Instead, it's just because a select few are wiser than him. Scarlet suddenly remembers her family. She begins to rant about them being so cruel for engaging their only daughter to a tyrant. Scarlet even questions herself if they're her real family. Luckily, Scarlet still has the memories of the old Scarlet. She remembers that the Duke is very cold and ignores and slaps her. The memory of the family is not a supportive and happy one. She then decides to leave the Duke's family as soon as possible. But Scarlet still needs to handle her engagement with the tyrant since their first meeting will be at the Emperor's birthday banquet in 10 days, which also refers to the beginning of the storyline and Scarlet's downfall. Staring at the invitation, Scarlet tries to remember why she loves the tyrant and what she sees in him that she fell for him. She suddenly understands that she cannot run away and must end the engagement. Abruptly, she thinks of being dropped by the tyrant. She must persuade the tyrant to call off their engagement because the Emperor's engagement is sealed with a mystical contract. Scarlet, therefore, cheerfully devises the plan to appear insane to incite the tyrant's hatred against her. Then, the day of the banquet arrives. While Scarlet is preparing, she rants that it is too early to prepare since the banquet is still at night. Looking at the dresses, Scarlet notices a plain peach dress and instantly decides to wear it, which shocks the maid since she always picks a fancier dress. It looks like the plan is starting. The maid asks Scarlet, who is getting ready, whether she would want to accessorize her dress as it's too simple for the banquet at the Imperial Palace. But Scarlet responds that the dress is enough. As Scarlet descends the stairs, she hears the maids chatting about her simple dress choice, and some of them think it's crazy that she's wearing it. The peach color does not suit her, so she smiles and realizes that is the expected response. Scarlet thinks excitedly as she gets settled in the carriage, sure that this outfit will begin her supposed madness. She observes the cold surroundings and the Duke's glares as they begin their journey. Scarlet sees this and disregards her father, believing the Duke to be unworthy of his old daughter. Scarlet returns to her senses when Isar Armin irritatingly asks her what is wrong with her today. Isar Armin, Scarlet's half-brother in the original tale, is the only person who stands by her after she's given the death sentence. When Scarlet takes her life, Isar is the first to find and save her after entering Scarlet's body. As Scarlet looks at Isar, wondering if she should treat him differently, she innocently asks what is happening. Isar notices Scarlet's eerie expression and asks if it's because of her dress, in an obnoxious way. Scarlet confidently tells Isar that her dress perfectly suits her and that she is pretty no matter what she wears. Taken aback by her response, Isar tells Scarlet that the rumors that she became crazy sound true. The Duke then shouts at Scarlet and angrily asks if she's willing to disgrace the family. Thinking it's about the dress, Scarlet then acts sad and tells him that since the Duke tells her that she bought a lot of clothes the other day, this time Scarlet tries on a very modest dress. Scarlet accusingly points to Isar and tells him that if it's about the family prestige, they must focus on Isar since he came home drunk yesterday. Why snitch a friendly sibling? Scarlet glances at Isar and notices he is calm and not mad at her for snitching on him. When the Duke is again about to shout at Scarlet, Duchess Milia Armin suddenly reprimands them and tells them to stop. The moment the former Duchess passed away, the Duke introduced Duchess Milia. Isar is older than Scarlet since, before their marriage, she was a romantic partner of the Duke, who abandoned her. Scarlet is disliked by Duchess Milia, who takes her ire out on her by punishing her frequently. Scarlet then tauntingly calls the Duchess Madam and tells her that her son is rumored to sing at the plaza when drunk. Not wanting to fight again, Scarlet pretends to sleep, but Isar shockingly looks at Scarlet when she instantly snores. Next, Scarlet wakes up from a weird dream and notices they arrive at the palace. When Scarlet asks the guard to unlock the gate, he responds that he can't because His Majesty is already inside. Scarlet gladly agrees. Scarlet is astounded by the opulence of the setting when she first arrives and thinks the Tyrant is defining this as a less formal birthday celebration than the previous emperor. Scarlet is satisfied that she got the people's attention negatively because of her dress and talks about her being crazy. While looking for the emperor, she notices a pretty handsome boy but realizes that it is not the emperor since he has blonde hair. The book describes the emperor as having silver hair with purple eyes. As Scarlet strolls around, she hears three women discussing the story of her going insane. Scarlet then approaches them, and upon realizing that the three women's hair does look like a traffic light, blurts out the phrase, "traffic light." One lady confusingly asks Lady Fleta what a traffic light is, but Lady Fleta only taunts Scarlet and tells her that the rumors are true since Scarlet is saying things that don't mean anything. Without backing down, Scarlet approaches Lady Fleta and threatens her if she wants to die. She warns her not to mess with her, thus making Lady Fleta's knees weak. Scarlet walks past them and notices that she's being sensitive. Scarlet observes that no one seems to be around her while she strolls, perhaps because her notoriety hasn't been revived in a month. The Tyrant's civility is what Scarlet falls for in the original novel, but maybe the most important reason is that, in the past, the Tyrant was what she needed and the only person who was polite to her. Scarlet finally sees the Emperor, and she then walks toward him. Upon arriving in front of the Emperor, she graciously greets and introduces herself. Scarlet stares at the Emperor and notices that the old Scarlet didn't only fall for his politeness, but also his face. While staring at the Emperor, she realizes how cool and handsome the Emperor is, making the surrounding people look like a water-tanned squid. The Emperor lazily asks Scarlet if she will show him something strange. She just better give up. Scarlet replies that since it is their first meeting as fiancés, she prepares something for him and asks the Emperor to look at it. Thus, the Emperor agrees to Scarlet. Hearing this, Scarlet happily thinks that her plan has succeeded and announces to everyone her magic trick. She exaggeratedly pours wine on her dress and announces it will turn dazzling red after greeting the Emperor with a happy birthday. Satisfied with her crazy act, Scarlet thinks her plan to break the engagement is successful. Seeing the Emperor's stunned reaction, she believes this may be a one-shot plan. I like Scarlet, she's cute and a psycho. Following the insane stunt performed by Scarlet, she wishes His Majesty a happy birthday while keeping in mind that he prefers not to be greeted. And suddenly, the Emperor's grim expression catches the attention of others. Having had enough of Scarlet, the Emperor calls Duke Armin and tells him that the lady's condition seems unwell. He advises him to see the state of things in his mansion. Duke Armin embarrassingly agrees to the Emperor and drags Scarlet away. While being dragged, Scarlet stares at the Emperor and sees the Emperor's handsome face. Scarlet noticed the Emperor looking at her. She then winked at the Emperor, which caught the Emperor off guard. On their ride home, Duke Armin angrily shouts at Scarlet for acting wildly in front of the Emperor. Not minding the Duke, Scarlet inwardly thinks that what she did would be a success. Isar then calls Scarlet's attention, saying that she looks and smells drunk. But Scarlet teasingly tells Isar that it's because she looks good in red too. Duchess Millar suddenly cuts in and says Scarlet will see a doctor to clear her head since what she did might break the engagement, and titles will not be excommunication. Hearing this, Scarlet again begins to act crazy and tells the Duchess that she only did it because she wants to give the Emperor a present, since the Emperor likes red blood. She acts innocent and asks the Duchess if she did anything wrong. Yep, this girl is crazy. Scarlet then acts obsessively in love while sharing with him that she wants to be hugged by the Emperor while covered in red flowers, and that she and the Emperor are true mates. Scarlet also adds that she wants to ask for a strand of hair from the Emperor every time they meet, which Isar finds scary and creepy, thus asking Scarlet if she wants to die. Next, as the carriage arrives, a servant opens the door, shocked that Lady Scarlet steps on his head and hurriedly runs away. Looking back, he assists the Duchess and confusingly asks her where Isar is. The Duchess shakes her head and remembers that Scarlet had stopped the Duke from slapping her. Then, she threatens him by saying that treating her as the Emperor's fiancé is wrong and throws Isar off the ride. She looks like a mad woman. The next day, a letter is written to the Emperor stating they should meet again since they unexpectedly parted ways at the party. Scarlet suddenly remembers that the Emperor and his fiancée are obliged to meet several times per month and will be recorded, which Scarlet feels like an open relationship. Scarlet rereads her letter and thinks she doesn't want to be too irritating, so she lets the Emperor decide on their first date. Since she feels that it is crucial to show her craziness in moderation and consistently show them, this will be the perfect plan to fool a suspicious tyrant. After sending the letter, Scarlet contemplated whether the schedule would come as expected. A reply to the letter, then yesterday's acts had a weak impact. Scarlet then calls Lucy and asks for her account book, the property left by Scarlet's deceased mother, the former Duchess. Scarlet realizes that she cannot become independent and flee with the meager amount of money she has, so she comes up with a plan to turn it into a fortune. Then she recalls that the safe zone, also known as the Cradle, is a desolate area where magic is useless, but it's the fairies' hideout. Scarlet then contemplates that if the fairies recognize her, she can secure excellent resources and the fairies' stone most expensive treasure. Meanwhile, the Emperor receives Scarlet's letter and decides to proceed with the engagement despite Scarlet's foolishness because she comes from a wealthy family with undeniable influence. The Emperor's thoughts are cut off when his aide reports to him about the investigation on Scarlet Armin. His aide tells him that Scarlet is a woman with a vicious and ruthless heart, and asks the Emperor if she is really in a suitable position to be an empress. Hearing the report, the Emperor thinks it is challenging to investigate her since they only investigated through external activities. He also feels that Scarlet is not entirely out of her mind and that he will see the real Scarlet, not Scarlet Armin. Later, Scarlet receives her schedule and the Emperor's monthly dates and thinks of a plan to show the Emperor her spicy, crazy side. The Emperor sits prettily in the chair when Count Clover visits him the following day and delivers him a stack of reports to read. The Emperor then calls Count Lumen, the intelligence chief, and tells him that the report is messed up, which Count Lumen denies. He's about to cry, so the Emperor abruptly cuts the communication. Hearing this, Count Clover knows that he'll be working overtime. Truly enough, the Emperor then orders him to investigate the Armin family and Scarlet Armin. Count Clover notices that it's been a week since Scarlet has been chosen as the fiancé. He then remembers that Armin's ancestors are the founders of the family of Calior and Rizabel, who are called heroes who stand shoulder to shoulder, and that the heroic ancestors left behind for the Armin family are something even the tyrant's aides find not easy to break through. Count Clover informs the Emperor that since the Emperor and Scarlet need to date twice a month, it will be helpful to gather information if Count Clover is nearby. Remembering Scarlet, the Emperor absent-mindedly thinks he wants to see her face again. Thus, the Emperor instructs Count Clover to deliver a letter to Scarlet Armin about his schedule personally. Still not getting over how the Emperor acted, Count Clover absent-mindedly walks and imagines the Emperor sitting on Scarlet's lap and accusing Scarlet of doing something to His Majesty. Just a little bit of observation, but Count Clover imagining the tyrant in Scarlet's lap is really crazy and creepy. Later that day, Scarlet receives the letter of her date with the Emperor the next day. The letter states that she's invited to the Imperial Palace the very next day with a side note that the Emperor will come on his feet, which she does not understand. After reading the letter, Scarlet decides to prepare gifts that the tyrant dislikes since she cannot visit someone's home empty-handed. She decides to buy grapefruit and white flowers to give to the Emperor, and these are the two things the tyrant hates. Upon arriving at the palace, Count Clover informs Scarlet that she's very late, but since it is the Emperor's last schedule, he has time to spare. Count Clover then leads the way to where the Emperor is. As they are walking, Count Clover tells Scarlet that the magic lights are usually turned on, but today, the Emperor instructed that most of them be turned off. Upon arriving at the place, Scarlet realizes it's a prison cell. A prison date? How romantic. As they arrive at the place, Scarlet then asks Count Clover if the place is a prison, which Count Clover confirms, and jokingly tells Scarlet that her eyesight is good since it is her first time visiting the palace and she knows it well. Scarlet then excitedly replies to Count Clover, who himself is quite familiar with the layout of their location. Scarlet then creepily asks Count Clover if he thinks she does not know him. In the original story, the aides of the tyrants are also described in detail. It is said that these aides are both tasked as observers of the tyrant's private life, though they also play the role of teasing the tyrant. As Scarlet slowly walks towards Count Clover feels uneasy. When Count Clover tries to back up, Water drops on his face, and when Scarlet sees this, she then remembers that Count Clover is famous for being neat. Therefore, she enjoys the little incident that just occurred. Scarlet then wipes a rag on the face of Count Clover and acts concerned while asking if he's okay. She then thinks that the rag she brings is so helpful in teasing Count Clover. However, Scarlet teasing poor Count Clover is cut off by the Emperor asking what they're doing. Scarlet then gracefully greets the Emperor as he walks closer to them. Next, Scarlet notices that the Emperor is looking at the basket she's carrying, so she cheerfully informs the Emperor that Scarlet brought a gift since she thinks it's not polite to visit a home empty-handed. Scarlet then happily shows the Emperor the white flower as one of her gifts and asks him if it's pretty. She also happily shows the Emperor the grapefruit she brings as a gift to him. Scarlet also highlighted that she also likes grapefruit and white flowers. Count Clover is shocked and scared for Scarlet's life as he sees the gift Scarlet brings to the Emperor. Scarlet continues to share with them that the grapefruit gift is the grapefruit of that Garrus territory and is a unique item carried by the white lizard. She then added that this must be very tasty. The Emperor then seriously calls Count Clover's name and instructs him to leave since he looks tired. Shocked, Count Clover tries to remind the Emperor of their original plan, but stops himself. The Emperor then informs Count Clover that he himself will be the one to accompany Lady Scarlet. As they are walking, Scarlet notices that it's very quiet since Count Clover left. Scarlet asks the Emperor why he instructs the people to turn off the lights outside, and she jokingly tells the Emperor that it is because she feels that she makes the Emperor feel better than ever. The Emperor just seriously tells Scarlet that he is currently at work, and some things cannot be recorded on the schedule. Seeing the Emperor's expression, Scarlet asks the Emperor if he wants her to work with his work, to which the Emperor agrees. The Emperor then tells Scarlet he wants her to meet and talk to somebody. When the doors open, Scarlet sees a creepy and scary hall full of people inside a prison cell. While they walk past the prisoners, somebody calls Scarlet, which stops her from walking. The prisoners then catch Scarlet's hands, and Scarlet has difficulty getting out of the grasp. Upon looking at the situation, the Emperor then sliced the prisoner's hand. Shocked by the happening, Scarlet suddenly realizes that, unlike the original story, the Emperor's hand has blood. Scarlet realizes Charles is an undeniable psychopath. He claims that the Chancellor has more work than anticipated. He then reaches out to her, saying they have a long way to go and need to hurry. What's his real game here? The young lady has to meet a man who lives far away. She's also puzzled as to why he's so joyful and considers slapping him in the face. However, at a certain point, a voice is heard saying that they're most likely length and one of them is rapidly approaching. The following moment, an old lady emerges from the terrifying jail. The insane granny admits that she too adores Scarlet. Scarlet, however, does not grasp what she's saying. On the other side, Charles recalls a prophet named Sage who endured 19 months in silent captivity. It was said to protect the elderly man from gangsters. The elderly woman's predictions regarding the Armans couldn't be dismissed. In exchange, the grandma was asked to deliver the prophecy. She then stated that there are two scenarios that are most likely to occur. However, the journey would lead to devastation. She also stated that only Armin has the power to foresee feelings. This prophecy has us all on the edge of our seats. Charles believes he may use the woman to find out what he needs. Scarlet asks the grandma if she knows how to communicate with fairies and wonders if they're real. The grandmother responds that the fairies are only seen to those with a pure heart. Scarlet wraps her fingers around Charles's arm and confesses that she has a weakness for His Majesty. The grandma is astounded by what she sees in front of her and asks Scarlet whether they are together, to which Scarlet affirms. Whoa, she really just confesses she has a weakness for His Majesty and confirms they're together? Talk about upfront! When the grandma extends her arms to Scarlet, Charles points a sword at her. He urges Scarlet to be cautious, since this elderly woman is a criminal who manipulates people's minds. Scarlet apologizes to him for asking about the fairies, which was a mistake. However, he does not react to her madness and believes that she lacks a sense of reality. Scarlet becomes agitated because Charles continues to ignore her and wonders why he is suddenly holding her hand. Without hesitation, he shows the man sitting in the cell. He tells Scarlet to ask the woman anything. The woman in the cell asks how His Majesty is feeling, which he replies positively. As soon as Scarlet sees the lady, she knows that it is the true Sage's eye. The lady tells Scarlet that she needs to make a choice because the change has already happened. At one point, Charles asks Sage and interrupts them. Scarlet then notices that he is gently holding her hands. She then suggests letting her in, and he agrees. However, Scarlet loses her balance, which makes the Sage laugh. After Charles and Scarlet's date, Clover enters Charles's study room and says that Scarlet has just gone home. Then Clover asks His Majesty about what happened in the dungeon when he and Scarlet went. Clover also asks if Fran has mentioned anything, which he confirms. He also says that Fran has decided to speak when she sees Scarlet. Charles says that the prophecy sounded exactly like what was fixed was once broken. Upon hearing it, Clover is amazed at what Fran's vague prophecy sounded like. He only hopes that Scarlet is alright, but Charles assures him that she's alright. In her mansion, Scarlet seems tired and decides to go to bed. However, Isar approaches her, whom she didn't expect to show up. He asks his sister why she's still awake at midnight, but Scarlet doesn't like how her brother approaches her. He tells her how glad that she's finally back. Still, Scarlet doesn't understand her brother, so she asks him to mind his own business. He stands over to her and says that he knows that she almost died. Isar also adds that she mistakenly thinks that he's not worrying about her. Tensions are just so high between these two siblings. When she looks up at him, she is shocked when she sees him crying. With that, she promises Isar that she will come home earlier and not let him worry about her. Clearly, he was agitated and his mood was terrible. Scarlet thanks Isar for worrying about her. After that, he wipes his tears and she assures him that everything will be all right. Then, Scarlet decides she has to go to bed and bid her goodbye to Isar. In her room, Scarlet realizes that she needs a lot of money, but she has to be in touch with the fairies someday. This girl is really obsessed with fairies. After a few days, Scarlet comes to the Imperial Bank and puts the money on the table in front of the bank employee. She also asks the employee to buy the land she needs. The employee tells her that given the amount that Scarlet is offered, she can buy 300 dumas of land. While she was talking with the bank employee, the people surrounding her were talking about her. They address her as Crazy Lady Armin. Despite all that, she remains with a smiling face. After going to the Imperial Bank, Scarlet walks through a beautiful garden. The sun's glare stretches the color of her beautiful trees. She remembers the book when Sherla meets the fairies, and they've been starving for 6 months. Wait, does she actually purchase the land because of the fairies? Scarlet believes that fairies are important beings who gave Sherla wings since she lacked powers. She also wonders if fairies enjoy apples. Scarlet will most likely purchase seed from the magical garden on her return trip. At the moment, Charles is walking with his assistant, who claims that the Tapa Bathory refuses to pay taxes. Apparently, it is related to the temple invasion. Charles requests to be left alone because everyone is going to die shortly. He also states that the man may bring him a sword and kill them all himself. What is Charles planning? Is he serious about this? The tension is rising and we're dying to know what happens next. Scarlet, on the other hand, hides under a tree to avoid Charles's detection. She is quite surprised that Charles went out for a walk. Charles's assistant informs him that he can wait a little longer and will order again. He also states that while he struggles with finding revenue, his pride will not be shattered. Despite what she has heard, Scarlet can't help but chuckle and make a sound. Naturally, Charles keenly takes note of the noise. Meanwhile, his assistant doesn't comprehend why Charles would do such a thing to underprivileged people. Scarlet emerges from behind the trees and hugs him. At one point, she almost falls, but Charles catches her. This is an intimate moment for both of them. Scarlet then understands that everything did not go as planned, and she still does not want to become closer to His Majesty and wants to end the engagement. Charles, on the other hand, believes she's acting like a child. She then finds he's attractive up close and can't control her emotions. Scarlet recognizes, however, that a brutal tyrant ruler cannot have a nice character. This is demonstrated by Charles himself, who asks Scarlet with a stern expression what she's doing in the region. She is terrified and uncomfortable right now. Meanwhile, the servant is confused as to why she emerged from the forest and found herself in the same location as His Majesty. He also believes that the Emperor was not in the mood due to the temple. The servant also believes that it would be a bad thing if the Emperor murdered his own wife. So the man decides to protect Scarlet from the Emperor's wicked rage. He tries to divert His Majesty by asking whether he's all right. He really is trying his best to protect Scarlet from his wrath. However, Charles only asks Scarlet if she wounded herself when she stumbled, which she didn't. Scarlet claims Charles is gorgeous, which makes him feel repulsed at times. Scarlet turns to His Majesty, asking what he's thinking. She also explains what she was doing on the land. She informs him that she's thinking of buying it. He's astonished by what she said and inquires if she has already decided to purchase the land. She smiles and shows how insane she is by saying that there are fairies roaming about the land. After hearing it, Charles recalls what the old granny told her in the cell. He has no idea how old Scarlet is if she believes in fairies. Regardless of her age, she insists on believing in fairies. Scarlet asks Charles if he can sell the lands at a lower price. However, when she looks at his hands, she notices he's wearing gloves. She quickly assumes that he's going to hit her. The following instant, Charles apologizes and turns to Scarlet, claiming that she is terrified of him. Regardless, he'll consider Scarlet's unexpected wishes. He also admits that it was late and resolves to return. She bids him goodbye with a caring tone in her voice. Scarlet arrives at her parents' estate and has no idea what just happened. She believes she broke all of her intentions. Scarlet also worries about why she did not say a proper goodbye. Scarlet recognizes that the Emperor is good to the lady he loves as well as others. Someone knocks on the door, which makes her wonder who may have come to see her. At first, she thinks that it's the Duke. She's also a little concerned because it's late. When she hears the voice that knocked on her door, she soon realizes that it is Isar. Scarlet is unsure if she should open the door, fearing that the Duke is with Isar. Isar gently unlocks the door, and she wonders why he is there at such an hour. Despite her disapproval of him entering her bedroom due to his forceful voice, he insists that he has something important to tell her. What could he possibly have to say that couldn't wait? Scarlet keeps giving excuses to stop him from coming in, which embarrasses Isar. She demands he be quiet to know if someone else is with him. He speaks calmly with a worried tone, assuring her that it will be fine if she doesn't open the door. Eventually, Scarlet decides to open the door and looks Isar in the eyes. She asks if he is sick, since it's unusual for him to be worried about entering her room. He claims that it was nothing and then bids her goodbye. Scarlet falls asleep with a diary in her hands where she writes down her elaborate revenge plans. She then realizes why they are hard to execute. Meanwhile, Charles stares out the window, contemplating Scarlet's fearlessness towards him. He thinks this makes her feel free with him, unlike others who are afraid. An old woman once warned that the imperial family and the empire would be destroyed if things remained unchanged. The prophecy stated that for the empire's prosperity and eternal existence, the prince's fate was to die, making it necessary to eliminate the consequences. When everyone believed the prophecies and rejected the prince, Charles took up the sword to survive, valuing his life. Despite this, he still thought Scarlet was special and unafraid of him. He recalls an incident earlier when she showed no fear and even asked to buy the land at a cheaper price. He then decides to sell the land to her, thinking she might bring something valuable to the table. The next day, Scarlet receives a document issued by the Empire. After a long conversation with the servant, she signs the documents and advises them to wait for the imperial family's approval. Once Charles's servant leaves, she instructs her maid to prepare the carriage as she is planning to visit the bank regarding the land purchase. While on the carriage ride, she eats delicious food and reflects on her trust in Charles, realizing she wouldn't get the land at half price. Scarlet stops in a small town near the Emperor's palace and searches for the map she has. Feeling a bit lost, she hears a strange female voice. Turning around, she is surprised to see a green-haired girl asking if she is lost. Scarlet finally remembers that the girl was terrified of her. The girl also recalls how Scarlet had tried to show everyone her wild side. Scarlet addresses her as green hair, but the girl corrects her, saying that she has golden green hair. Scarlet places a hand on her chest and says that if the girl is done with her accusations, she will leave. However, the girl asks her to wait and introduces herself as Peridot Fleta. Scarlet asks if she wants to be friends, but makes it clear that she's not interested. Fleta ominously tells Scarlet that she won't live long and will die in the end. Scarlet finds this remark extremely rude and declares she doesn't want to see her again. Their conversation is interrupted by Charles's aide. Meanwhile, Charles reads a report about an incident involving Scarlet. He realizes she's not as simple as he once thought because her demeanor changes around him. The servant cannot tell if Charles is smiling as he teases him about Scarlet, but Charles advises him to take his job seriously. Charles then asks where Scarlet is, and the servant replies that she's in a safe zone. Deciding to check on her, Charles heads out. Charles is taking an active interest in her whereabouts, so what's he planning? Scarlet is excited about some magic seeds and is glad to see Charles. When he asks what she's doing, she replies that she's planting fruit trees as gifts for the fairies. Their conversation falls silent, and Scarlet looks up at Charles. He silently looks back at her, lifting the corners of his lips slightly. Scarlet is struck by Charles's beautiful face, feeling awkward and unsure of what to say. She starts to ask about the land, clarifying that it now belongs to her and that she's probably paying taxes. Charles tells her she can visit the land as much as she wants, and upon her return, they can rewrite the contract. Instead of paying taxes, he will sell the land to her at half the price. Scarlet is very surprised and looks at him hopefully. He then mentions there is a condition, which she knows implies there's more to his generous offer, but she agrees. Charles is surprised by Scarlet's excitement over his offer to sell the land at half price. She is thrilled, knowing this deal will help her easily break off her engagement. Charles schedules their next meeting to finalize the contract, and they bid their goodbyes. A few days later at the Armin mansion, Scarlet's servant is shocked by her actions. She is creating a magic insect to sell at a lower price, which leaves an unpleasant message when stepped on. The Duke steps on one, which accuses him of having an unpleasant personality. Furious, he shouts Scarlet's name. Scarlet sure knows how to stir up trouble. Scarlet, happy to be getting her revenge, is informed by her maid that the Duke is coming her way. Not in the mood to meet him, she orders the carriage to be prepared and tells her maid to get ready. Meanwhile, the butler inquires about the Duke's well-being. The Duke, now angry, demands to know Scarlet's whereabouts. The old man refuses to comply, insisting the Duke should see a doctor first. The Duke's furious shouts echo through the mansion as he berates the butler for not finding Scarlet, calling him useless. The Duke's temper tantrum is something to behold. Scarlet really knows how to cause a ruckus without even being present. Years ago, the first head of the Armin family, Aaron Armin, was adored by everyone. His life was cut short after finding his perfect love, and he eventually died. His lover, chosen by the Baron instead of becoming the Duchess Amelia, became the first Duchess. Her life was far from perfect, as undisclosed events led to her eventual death. Returning to the present, the butler reluctantly searches for Scarlet on the Duke's orders. He reflects on how the Duke has become more tyrannical over time. When he finds Scarlet, he warns her that she shouldn't be at the mansion. She tells him she plans to go to town, despite knowing she shouldn't. Scarlet then comes up with a clever idea and whispers her plan to tease the Duke. Seeing no other option, the butler agrees to go along with her idea. Meanwhile, Charles, pondering in his room, is amazed by Scarlet's seemingly harmless motives. He knows she wants to break off their engagement and has been acting crazily, far exceeding his expectations. Despite this, he finds her intriguing and decides to play along for a while. He believes their engagement will end regardless of her wishes and figures it wouldn't hurt to keep her alive and watch her antics for another month. The day for a meal with the elders has finally arrived. When Scarlet gets to the venue, she's thrilled to see Isar looking different than usual, especially his hair. He asks why she's late, and she replies that she stayed up late last night. The venue is heavily decorated and ready to receive guests. This party is one of the major events of the duchy, where all the family members gather even if guests don't come. The duchy sure knows how to throw a party. But seriously, a major event where everyone gathers? What's the real purpose here? As Isar and Scarlet continue their conversation in the hallway, a lady shouts at them, telling them to hurry as the elders will arrive in a few minutes. Scarlet is furious at the lady's attitude, but Isar warns her not to retaliate since she's an orphan. Scarlet can't stand the lady's harsh words and tells her to behave appropriately for her age. Just then, one of the duchesses arrives at the venue and advises them not to block the hallway and to go inside. Good timing, Duchess. Clearing the hallway tension. Classic move. But what's next for you, Scarlet? While they're eating, Isar can't stop thinking about what happened earlier. He asks Scarlet if she's all right and apologizes. However, she tells him not to worry, as it's nothing. Scarlet asks about the elders, to which Isar replies that their personalities are no joke. He explains that the relationship between the elders and the Armin family is complex. The elders are an alliance that protects the borders of the monsters, but their relationship with the family isn't good. However, they still respect the former duke and his lover. Protecting the borders of the monsters? This sounds intense! After hearing this, Scarlet reflects that all these people, including Isar, are destined to die at the Tyrant's hand. She snaps back to reality when Isar calls her, mentioning that they'll be having a California meeting. She is shocked when he places his hand above hers, but Isar is dazed by her expression. Despite her surprise, she thinks there might be a way to save Isar because he is important to her. Scarlet ponders ways to save the ones she cares about the most, namely maid Lucy and her half-brother Isar. Even though it hasn't been long since she arrived in this world, she at least wishes for them to survive. Isar wakes her up from her daydreaming, calling her attention to the family meeting that they're supposed to attend. The siblings walk towards the meeting room. Scarlet goes back to her pondering while walking, her thoughts now on a possible protector who will have an excuse to protect her maid and brother. The head butler greets them outside as they get ready to enter the meeting room. Once inside, the siblings introduce themselves to the elders, who look at them pensively. Scarlet scans the room. Her eyes land on two figures she immediately recognizes. an elderly white-haired man and a black-haired woman. Exactly the people she's looking for to save Lucy and Isar. In the novel, these two elders were the ones who gave Scarlet the funds to bully Sherla. They gave her the money simply because Scarlet looked so much like her mother that they were weak for her charm, ignoring the fact that it was used to harass someone. Wow, A+ relatives. Their assistance to her was their demise, but this time it will be different since she's not the same Scarlet. She excitedly looks at them, thinking of the prospect of having them owe her instead. The family meeting commences and the elders present their grievances to the Duke. They require money to purchase Cabell, a mushroom that repels monsters from the forest of monsters at their borders. A recent goblin extermination has led to the emergence of a minotaur at the borders, spurring the need to get more Cabell. It's exactly like it was in the novel. Curious, Scarlet raises her hand to ask the elders the reason for the monsters. The elder woman admits that they too did not know, as it's too risky to enter the forbidden forest of monsters. The elders' answer makes Scarlet realize why they were deemed incompetent by the Tyrant in the novel. The real reason for the monsters' presence was due to a certain flower that turns monsters rabid. No matter the elders' attempts to ward them with Cabell, the monsters persisted. Until the Tyrant's discovery of the flower in the forest, which resulted in the forest's restoration and the execution of the Armen elders. Scarlet knows that when the Minotaur is gone, a wyvern will replace it. She wants to find a solution to how to save her family. Duke Armen inconsiderately declines the elders' request as Scarlet hypes herself up for what's to come. Since she remembers the Tyrant's actions from reading the novel, she can use it to help the elders solve their issues. Isar nudges her, anxiously looking at her. He tells her that she's making him nervous with whatever is in her head, as she looks too giddy and excited. Considering her reputation, I would be too, buddy. Sometime after the meeting, Scarlet calls out to the elders who are having their belongings deposited at their temporary lodgings at the Armen estate. Lady and Sir Adrian apprehensively greet her back, as if expecting to be made fun of after the Duke's outright refusal to provide them funds for the Cabell mushrooms. Instead, Scarlet presents them with her inherited valuables from her mother with a seemingly pure intent to assist them. She also wishes them the best for their proposal so that they can get more funds. Lady Bryan assures her that she will not give up easily, intending to stay until she gets what they came for. The elders graciously accept Scarlet's offer, promising to pay her back in return. Content with the level of kindness she's currently showing, Scarlet opts to tell them at a later time about solving their issue. When the time is right, she will tell them about the things she wants in return: protection for Lucy and Isar. Later that day, Lucy hands Scarlet a letter from the Imperial Palace. Fully expecting a rejection letter from the Tyrant, she disappointingly reads an official schedule letter, which tells her to reply as soon as possible. She crumples the letter in her hand. At the Imperial Palace, reveling in his perfectly normal workday, he stands looking out the window, wishing for days to be the same as today. Don't we all? The thought disappears as a knight approaches him, announcing the arrival of Lady Armen. The lady is now waving at him on the walkway leading up to his office. He pours the lady's tea before facing her nervously. Lady Scarlet Armand expresses her dismay at his disregard for her sudden arrival and claims they may have something going on between each other ever since the day they met. The Prime Minister stares at her, mouth agape, as she continues to feed him assumed scenarios of his supposed admiration of her in her head. He stands, ready to run, and vehemently denies the sudden allegations. His exclamation is so loud that it alerts the servants rooms away. Scarlet amplifies her teasing of the Prime Minister. For maximum effect, she blushes as she asks him unabashedly if he likes her. Oh, she is acting crazy, stirring up trouble. He just stands there, not responding, staring blankly at her. I think he needs to sit down and just breathe. She wants to cause a disaster since her crazy doesn't work much on the Tyrant, and she has devised another way. Her first victim is Prime Minister Clover. Still going on her teasing about his unproven love for her, Prime Minister Clover has had enough of it. He exclaims his confusion, but Scarlet is unrelenting. His confusion is just fueling her further. Clover is slightly swayed somehow, now internalizing his behavior and how he's perceived by others. The most intelligent Prime Minister in the Empire is caught up in the nonsense just because he's single and has never been in a relationship. He blushes, ignorant of what love may feel like, and he pleads for Scarlet to stop. As he does, she mentions her engagement with the Emperor, which snaps him out of his confusion. The image of the Emperor's menacing look struck an immediate fear in the poor man's heart. Scarlet notices her victim getting quiet, looking like he's about to cry. She apologizes rashly for her harsh actions, but goes on, teasing him after realizing she has to keep the act going. She flashes him one last look, maxing out her acting skills on one last sincere apology, leaving him with his mouth agape and even more confused. On the way home, Scarlet reflects on her actions. It was more troublesome than she had desired. She just hopes he'll spread what happened with the other aides so that they will hate her, which will lead the Tyrant Emperor to save face and reject her. Isn't that dangerous, Scarlet? What if he kills you? Back at the Prime Minister's office, Count Lumen calls out to Clover, who is still seated in front of the now cold tea. He suddenly asks the Count what love would feel like. He enumerates his symptoms, which makes it seem like he's just sick, more so than in love. He cuts off the conversation, preferring to keep what happened earlier to himself. The next morning at the Armin Mansion Annex, Scarlet and her maid Lucy stand outside the elders' lodgings. The door is closed and the occupants are absent, dismaying Scarlet as she had Lucy make cookies for them. They do not have to wait there standing outside the mansion, as Lady Adrian calls out to Scarlet. The elder woman reveals that she was in a meeting for her future Cabell purchase. Scarlet enthusiastically expresses her interest in the mushroom, and Lady Adrian indulges her by procuring a handful of Cabells and showing them out to the younger woman. As Lady Adrian is telling her about the mushroom's ability to temporarily paralyze devils, Scarlet suddenly loses control of her body. She sways on her feet before falling to the ground, to Lucy's utter horror. Oh no! What could this mean? Is she evil? Head pounding, she remembers talking to Lady Adrian before finding herself transported to a forest. It looks familiar to her, although it's her first time there. She knows she's in the forest of monsters. She hears movement from behind her, and she finds herself looking at Scarlet. She recognizes the red hair immediately as the Tyrant's lover in the novel. The woman talks to herself, mentioning a tool to replace Cabell. Scarlet knows that in the original work, Scarlet did find a replacement for Cabell, but with the aid of another person. She follows Scarlet in the forest awkwardly, eager to see the tool she's looking for. After waking for a bit, Scarlet raises her lamp in front of her. She calls it the Geppetto slime, a gray matter with tiny eyes and a droopy mouth. It looks so derpy and cute. Geppetto slime is harmless to humans, but is a predator that feeds on any ferocious monster in the forest. This is the tool to replace Cabell. Scarlet smiles to herself as she makes sure to remember the slime's location to find it next time. Her vision suddenly fades as she hears someone call her name, pleading for her to wake up. She wakes up in her bed. The room seems to be full of worried looks. Isar, the elders, and Lucy all look extremely concerned. Isar scolds her for being a troublemaker. It's not her fault, though. He tells her to take things easy and consider going somewhere to recover if the mansion is uncomfortable for her. His suggestion gives her an idea to use this as an excuse to go to the elder's estate. She looks at Lady Adrian mischievously, but is immediately refused. The older woman tells her of the numerous dangers that await her at their estate if she goes. Cunningly, Scarlet is quick to propose checking the state of affairs of their estate for the Duke to convince the elder. Seeing the benefit that they will get from her visit to their property, Lady Adrian beams at her approvingly. Scarlet will have to ask her father for approval too. But Isar has other ideas. Seeing the exchange between the ladies, he expresses his disapproval. Even if their father approves, he finds it concerning for his sister to go alone to a dangerous place. Scarlet assures her half-brother that she'll be safe as she'll not be going alone. Who? He'll find out soon. He finishes reading a letter and asks his Prime Minister to clear up his schedule for the next 2 weeks. He has an appointment with the young lady. The Armins stand outside their mansion amongst busy servants, preparing for Scarlet's and the Elder's departure. The Duke himself is there as well, senselessly reprimanding his children while waiting for the Emperor's arrival. I think you should calm yourself down first, Duke. Duke Armin remarks on the Emperor's late arrival, smugly going on about Caglior respecting the Armin family. Isar explains to Scarlet that he must be acting proudly since it's the first time the Emperor will come to their estate. The royal family Caglior and the Armin family have an old relationship spanning generations where the Cagliors rule and the Armins protect the borders of the empire. But Scarlet knows that the relationship eventually ends after the Armin family fails to do their duty. Isar asks her why she wants to travel with the Emperor. She simply tells him that she's his fiancé and that it's only normal. But deep inside, she knows the real reason. She's actually hoping the 3-day journey stuck together will make the Emperor sick of her ultimate goal. She also tells him about their father's easy approval of her vacation, leaving the details to herself. When she went to him, he was acting suspiciously with a crystal ball. She told him her reason and destination, which prompted him to assume that she was going there to look into the position of successor. It surprised her. He seemed wary of her at the time with the mention of succession. He asked her about the whereabouts of a seal, their family seal, Scarlet. He had been pestering her about it again and again. The seal was proof of family ownership, something the Duke doesn't have. She wonders why he's looking for it again, making her curious as well, and what form the seal has taken since it changes every time it's passed down. As she's looking up at a banner with her family crest absent-mindedly, Isar suddenly calls her attention, telling her to bow to the Emperor. The Duke excitedly approaches the Emperor. They exchange greetings. After the formality, the Duke proceeds to talk about his family to the Emperor. Isar and Scarlet notice the Emperor just standing there, seemingly having no intention of listening to the Duke. Isar notices two of the Emperor's knights eyeing Scarlet. She knows the two of them. The blonde-haired knight, Count Lumen, is the head of the intelligence department, and the one with the eye patch is the commander of the knights. Despite knowing their identities, she greets them formally for their first meeting. Isar notices that the knights seem to admire her, judging by their soft smiles and blushing cheeks. Charles looms from behind her, shocking her. He holds her arms, preventing her from falling. It has been a long time since they last met, and his sudden greeting has her feeling uncharacteristically nervous. He calls out to Count Lumen, who procures a bouquet of red roses for her. She blushes as he tells her that the flowers remind him of her and that they resemble her head. The people around them stop, shocked. Look at the Duke, his mouth's open! The two knights laugh in the background. The Emperor's little prank seems to be proof of his being in love. The elders invite her to get on their old shabby carriage. Scarlet can't help but feel disappointed, making her want to travel with the Emperor in his carriage. She looks back at him talking to his knights, busy and seemingly not caring for her. Isar, ever so worried, reminds her of their conversation from the other day. They had discussed her relationship with the Emperor. It disturbed him that the man engaged to his sister was known to be cruel. Even if it did not matter to her, he still couldn't help it. Scarlet understood that her brother was afraid that the Emperor might hurt her physically, and it made her care for Isar more. He was the only one ever to actually care for her. He gave her a magic tool, a smooth, light-colored stone used for sending messages. He can contact her as long as it's with her, and she can do the same. He would be there if anything were to happen to her. Oh, isn't he thoughtful? Scarlet, magic tool in hand, walks towards the carriage while reminding him about his task while she's gone. He's to water her plants in the safe zone for her, and he gladly accepts. They bid each other farewell. It hasn't been long since their departure from the Armin estate, but they have made numerous stops on the way due to prevalent bandit attacks. Count Lumen, who is riding the elder's carriage with Scarlet, complains. It puzzles Scarlet why this man is traveling with her instead of the Emperor. The man just keeps acting like he doesn't know anything and complaining. The elders seated across from her express their shame for the situation since the attacks started to happen in their territory. Scarlet assures them that it wasn't their fault since they were traveling with an imperial carriage. It must be the reason for the attacks. They are fortunate to be traveling with the knights, and she trusts that the bandits are no match for the Emperor. Suddenly, one of the knights shouts to let everyone know a bandit is running away, and the knights scramble to action once again. Scarlet notices an ominous figure in the corner of her eye on the side of the carriage. He seems to know her, even calling her name as he raises his knife at her. The man doesn't notice a hand reaching for the back of his head. The next thing he knows, his head is through the carriage door. It surprises her. Standing over an unconscious bandit is Charles, looking cool and collected even after the violence he just inflicted. He checks on her, and she thanks him for saving her. She notices the Emperor's white horse in the background, coming to the conclusion that he traveled on his horse. Considering he just saved her, he's literally a man on a white horse. Sweet! He opens the broken carriage door and offers a hand as he invites her to ride with him in his carriage together. In the Imperial carriage, sitting across from the Emperor, Scarlet stares at him in disbelief as he informs her of the reason for the attacks. Her! They were looking for her! He tells her about the assassins of Pawn. Hailing from another kingdom that has produced numerous assassins, the ones that attacked seemed like amateurs, but he was still wary as they were able to use a technique unique to Pawn. He asks her if there's anyone who wants to kill her. The first image that pops into her head is of her father, the Duke. Charles warns her that they will attack again and that it will not be a big deal. Scarlet misunderstands, thinking that he must not care much for her and that it's not going to be a big deal. She starts to panic. He cuts her off, reassuring her that she does not have to worry. No danger will come to her when she's with him. Oh, really now? Sometime later, the caravan stops for a rest. Scarlet is greeted by the commander of the night right away. He apologizes to her about the earlier incident. Charles stands menacingly behind her, intimidating his knight. She lets the knight off easily, as she didn't really get hurt. She even felt safe enough to sleep in the imperial carriage. Surprisingly, the tyrant mirrors her kindness to the knight and lets him off easy, much to the knight's relief. Count Lumen calls away the emperor for urgent business. Watching him walk away, Scarlet thinks of a way to thank him for her safety. At dinner, Scarlet clinks a glass with her fork to call everyone's attention around the campfire. The knights, gathered around the fire, are still eating their dinner. The elders look at her suspiciously, and they all anticipate whatever she's going to do. She thanks the knights for their safe arrival, and in return, she offers them a gift for their effort. The gift? Beautiful serenade. She scans the area, making sure Charles can see her before starting. Their eyes meet for a second, and she's off. This girl's up to something. Charlie, watch out! Scarlet's singing makes the knights uncomfortable. One of them points out that she's actually not that good. Some of them have stopped in their tracks, shocked and aghast. Scarlet, they just had dinner. Some of them already threw up. What a waste of food! She continues her singing with closed eyes, uncaring of any reaction from the audience. Focused on her song, she sincerely hopes that it will shock the tyrant. She opens her eyes, taking a peek at the man. He's reacting to it all right, but not the way she expected. Instead, she's the one who's shocked. He's smiling! As Scarlet lay in bed, exhausted for the day, she couldn't help but think how apparently she thought Charlion would hate it if she sang in front of the crowd. Much to her difficulty in understanding, she couldn't believe he'd do the exact opposite and smile. Though really, she wonders what she'll do for the rest of the trip. But after spending some time in bed, Scarlet can't sleep, so she decides to go on a walk outside, where she encounters Charlion tending to his horse. He had just gone back from patrol, and upon learning that Scarlet had gone for a walk this time of night, he became distressed. He's thinking of the bandits, that's all. Without losing a beat, he accompanies her in the nightly stroll, and the two are now on horseback. Scarlet can't take the awkward silence, though, so she asks Charlion about his plans tomorrow. The Emperor replies that he'll be going to Rashael, a place that Scarlet is unfamiliar with because it wasn't in the original story. Charlion reveals he'd be gone for just one morning, so no changes to their schedule. Scarlet admits to liking whenever he's abroad on a diplomatic mission, seeing that tyranny throughout the neighboring land had reduced when Charlion ascended the throne, but she wonders why she seems upset with him leaving. Suddenly, Charlion's senses spring up, and he makes the horse gallop rapidly, asking his lady to hold on, and she does, to the only thing there, him. This made them essentially hug while on horseback, but before they can address this, Scarlet notices something moving. They find a baby wild boar whose cuteness overwhelms Scarlet. Charlion isn't as enthusiastic, however. Scarlet notices his tense demeanor, and since he accompanied her, she decides to reassure him a bit. She starts by mentioning his penchant for swords, revealing a wicked-looking sword she bought. The look on his face when he saw it? Priceless, and that's not all Scarlet has. She reveals she's got a lot of magic trinkets, even ones to light fire with or create a smoke screen. As Scarlet yaps on, a glowing blue stone falls by Charlion, which he notices. Apparently, it's a messenger, something that'll magically notify a person of the user's location. With that, Charlion remarks why Scarlet carries all that with her. She answers matter-of-factly that it's to protect herself, even if His Majesty isn't present. Now the male lead of this novel, Charlion, is brooding, sometimes sharp with his actions, but he is infinitely kind to those he loves. And this shows with the tiniest hint of a smile on his face upon giving praise to Scarlet's preparedness. As Charlion says that they should go, extending his hand to her, for a moment Scarlet feels as if she's the main character of the novel. The morning comes as Scarlet stirs in bed. She feels someone next to her, caressing her hair, and half awake, she asks if it's Charlion. To her horror, she finds that it's a red-haired man, a bandit of some sorts. As soon as Lord Benzer bursts into the room, she's already taken captive with a knife at her throat. Meanwhile, Lady Adrian and Sir Brian are fending off a horde of attackers. And when Brian learns that Scarlet was left unguarded, he chastises his colleague for leaving their defenseless lady. Their bickering stops when they hear shouts, confirming Scarlet's capture. Back in Scarlet's room, the threat of her life causes all the knights to surrender, even the Knight Commander. Despite feeling dejected for his uselessness, he does succeed in informing Scarlet that Charlian has already left for Rashahel. Scarlet finds the man holding her to be one of the assassins she encountered. She asks if it's her life they want, and the man answers that ending a noble lady's life will accomplish nothing. All the while, Scarlet using the messenger stone, the only one she had grabbed, to send a message to Charlian. We find His Majesty in a meeting, but when the magic of Scarlet's messenger bird arrives, he senses it, even asking Count Lumen to check the garden outside because of this. Back at the inn, the attackers have succeeded in subduing everyone. The red-haired man, seemingly the boss of the gang, asks his men to gather as much money as they can. Brian uses this time to check in on Scarlet. Adrian suspects their captors are no ordinary men, especially the leader. That's when Scarlet reveals her suspicion that the men are Pan's assassins. They're an extinct family that met their end because of the Armin family. If she's right, then it's her life they're after. As Brian muses this fact, the boss suddenly comes back and mocks the group for figuring it out. He grabs Brian by the collar and orders Scarlet to be moved somewhere. The lady shouts in defiance, arguing that Sir Brian isn't relevant in his plans. The boss agrees, and because Brian isn't important is why he'll end his life. In a desperate attempt to save Brian, Scarlet offers up her own life in exchange for not hurting any of her subordinates. This stops the red-haired man, and it seems that Scarlet's hunch is right. The attackers are valuing her life more. Scarlet is now relying on her theory that the attackers want her alive. Even though they say she'll meet her end the same as the other captives, she knows if she's harmed, they'll be in trouble. Seeking to get the boss's attention from Brian, Scarlet fakes trying to explain how she knew that she's the target and secretly cuts the ropes that bind her wrists. She bumps the man tasked with transporting her, causing further commotion. The gang's boss frantically calls his men to secure the now-escaped Scarlet, but rather than run or fight back, Scarlet stuns the crowd by grabbing a knife and pointing it to herself. She even mocks the boss for his shocked expression, like he hasn't prepared for her craziness. The boss clenches his fist, urging Scarlet not to pull any more pranks. However, the lady is determined. She raises the blade unto herself, hoping that Charlian, or Charles, won't be late because it's the only way to get out of this. Fortunately, he does arrive to stop Scarlet's fake suicide. Scarlet, at this point, is more in shock at how fast Charles arrived with Count Lumen. Charles, however, promises that they'll talk later. First, he asks her to close her eyes and ears as he deals with the perpetrators. He asked her that because he said the way they'll look after he deals with them won't be fun. Now that isn't even arrogance, but confidence. After that fiasco, the events rolled pretty quickly. They left for the rest of their journey in a bit of a hurry. As for Lord Benzer, it took some convincing for Charles not to exact absolute punishment for the former Knight Commander. Instead, he's been reassigned to a disputed region on the kingdom's border. In the process, Scarlet finds herself becoming close to Charles's personal aides, as all three are sat in the same carriage. She takes note of her companions, as Benzer is in amazement of her lady's persuasion skills that avoided his punishment. Count Lumen, on the other hand, doesn't cry anymore. Although she says the two talk a lot. Scarlet even regards Adrian and the ever-muttering Brian, with the former saying she reminded her of the former Duke. But what gets her the most is Charles, the tyrant of the story. Actually, he's getting more and more playful, not like his brooding self, as these days go by. She says she doesn't like it, but her blushing cheeks say otherwise. Anyway, after a long, twisting journey, the coach driver announces their arrival to their destination. Finally, they've reached the Forest of Monsters and Avrian's territory. It's the place the Elders called Troublesome, and for Scarlet, it's where the Armin family and the Elders will have their destinies determined. Now, Scarlet has brought Charles all the way to the forest, though knows he has his intentions too. She thinks that if he finds out, it'll be the Senate's problem. Even if the worst scenario happens, the Elders still have the room to ask His Majesty for help. She recounts how discussions about the Forest of Monsters with Duke Armin, and how he always nonchalantly deflects responsibility regarding the matter without sharing any info. Scarlet's face shows her displeasure, which is noted by both her vassals and Charles too. Anyway, His Majesty asks how Duke Armin defends the border of the forest, and Brian and Adrian then explain in full detail. They ask for apologies for having brought him there, but Charles tells them to pay it no mind, since he hadn't expected them to do well in the first place. A little backhanded comment there, I see, Charles. Scarlet then asks that perhaps they should go in first. Benzer meekly comments that they are there for her treatment. The lady agrees, but since the forest is under Armin protection, she argues that it'll be okay to look around. But again, Benzer reminds her that entering another territory without permission is dangerous. Not to be defeated, Scarlet asks that she'll just go into the border a little, then come back. What's more, she asks the party that there'll be no need to follow, as she'll be going with Charles. Brian asks if she's sure, and Scarlet makes her desire to check the chaotic forest for herself known. Besides, Charles agrees to her plan, revealing that even if she hadn't asked, he would have gone to the forest anyway. He nonetheless assures Scarlet of her safety, noting he'll always be by her side, always in contrast to other useless people. Looks like Charles isn't stopping with the backhanded comments, and this one hits Benzer right through the chest. Anyway, the two enter the forest with Scarlet in the lead. She knows to keep heading east, looking for a big old tree as a landmark. Charles notices Scarlet's almost preparedness in taking her routes, and asks if this is indeed her first time there. She assures him she is, since even the elders aren't allowed there, but he wonders why she's so confident in the steps. Scarlet can't reveal that she dreamt of the forest. She feigns ignorance and tallies it to her love for adventure. Just as Charles reminds her not to go far, Scarlet immediately darts away, calling for him to follow. It seems that she's found an old tree where hundreds of gold flowers riddle the ground. She's found it allegedly by accident, the ancient golden flowers in full bloom, which attracts monsters. Pretty soon they made their way back, and their companions were marveling at the gold flower. Though Lumen is also wary of the cute creature Scarlet brought back, a Geppetto slime. Charles doesn't let her keep it. Anyway, all narcotic flowers were collected for sampling, also the soil and the slime monster. The area was then burned after. The research is decided to be spearheaded by the Armin family and Lumen. Scarlet smiles, noting that their problems are solved. But one last thing, her vassals now say goodbye to her. They give her a transport communication bead to report about the research to her, among other things. To express their gratitude, Brian and Adrian promise to help Scarlet out with anything. So she asks them to help her friend maid Enizar when in trouble. The two agree, and they swear they'll protect the two as Scarlet's vassals. Scarlet smiles as she's happy that her plans are going along. She promises that she'll visit Brian and Adrian as she departs. Now, she's thinking how the Duke still wants her dead, but now she's got people on her side. The chapter ends with Charles calling for her to ask Scarlet about the assassins that attacked her. Charlian and Count Lumen have been investigating the assassins that had plagued them throughout their trip. One of them, who had tried to run away, had confessed many things because of Charlian's interrogation. Lumen's expression remains worried as Scarlet learns of the gravity of the truth. She really needs to find a way to take care of the Duke as soon as she gets back. Count Lumen asks her if she's alright, and though she says she is, her face tells a different story. What's more, Scarlet wants to check on the fairies first. The scene then shifts to Iskar, tending to Scarlet's tree. Scars are visible on his forearms as he waters the tree, though he grumbles about Scarlet troubling others, and why she's growing a fruit there. He doubts whether fairies will appear there, just as the very fairies he's talking about stir in the tree. Back to Scarlet, she knows now's the time when Charlian investigates the Black Magician's background, and has the boyfriend of the female lead killed. She wonders if he'd already done so, making Charlian confused as she stares at him. Lumen then asks His Majesty when to schedule the meeting with Raphael next, but Charlian asks to put it aside. Scarlet thought they had already held a meeting, so she asked about it. Lumen explains that the Raphael is more than an area in Kaelor. It's also the name of a family that perished because of their closed-mindedness. The three oldest families in the mainland are the Kaelor, Raphael, and Armin. It's said that Charlian's ancestor is the god of winter. He was a god who could cross dimensions. The Raphael was descended from the god of prophets and wanderers, and the Armins is from the goddess of clover. All three gods died to reincarnate as human. They make a slight joke about Clover, the prime minister, having the same name as the god. Continuing the story, since the Raphael had been wiped out 20 years ago, the same year when Scarlet was born, they're not sure who carried the bloodline on. It's said that the Raphaels had blood hair and red eyes like Scarlet. While Charlian has been listening to all of this, he notices the carriage stop, and he asks the driver why. Up ahead, there's a body on the ground. They look and find a boy with blonde hair and red eyes. Upon seeing Scarlet, he's shocked to find another apparent survivor. He reveals his name to be Glenn Masquear, which Scarlet knows is the lover of Sherla. He died because of Charlian in the original story, which made the start of Sherla and Charlian's relationship all because of revenge. Charlian also knows that this boy is the last Masquear, and reveals that he isn't a boy at all. The ruling Masquer had a son with a disease that prevented him from growing. Glenn, clearly the successor, may look like a kid, but he's turning 20, the age where they become the head of the family. Also, the way Charlian talks about it indicates he didn't wipe out Glenn's clan, as what Scarlet believes. Anyway, the group decides to leave Glenn with the elders. Meanwhile, Duke Armin is furious at Scarlet while looking through a communication bead. It seems he's worried about the family token. It hadn't alerted him when Scarlet entered the forest, so it's not on her. But he knows she has it. If she makes it public, then she'll be chosen as the new master because of her bloodline. Scarlet stretches herself as finally, despite being later than expected, she's back home. Charlian asks her to go ahead to the Duke's house since he has to order his knights. Not knowing what else Duke Armin had done while she's gone, Scarlet complies. But when she's gone, Lumen asks Charlian whether he really wants to spy on the Duke. Apparently, the ancient families have magic not even the royal family could destroy. It's better if they had inside help, and Charlian promises that he'll take care of it. Suddenly, Charlian notices his sword resonating with something. Meanwhile, Scarlet's still happy as the servants of her home gather for her arrival. Lucy approaches her, but doesn't share her enthusiasm. Rather, she's trying to warn Scarlet, but it's too late. The Duke has arrived. He angrily chastises his butler for touching and stopping him, and when he sees Scarlet, he immediately slaps her and calls her derogatory terms. For all the trouble she caused him, the Duke told her she should have never gone home. Izar tries to stop his father, but fortunately, Charlian arrives and angrily questions the Duke why he hit his fiancée, much to the Duke's horror. Charlian asks for Scarlet to be taken care of before confronting the Duke again. Not so tough now, are you, Duke Armin? In the face of the absolute authority of His Majesty, the Duke could do nothing but grovel, admit, and repent for his sin. This time, Charlian belittles Duke Armin and asks him to get up from his prostrated form. He's saved because Charlian doesn't want Scarlet to be inconvenienced with his funeral. Scarlet observes Charlian, wondering if he still has feelings for her after trying to dissuade him all this time. Charlian asks for Scarlet to be taken care of after confronting the Duke. As for Duke Armin, Scarlet muses how embarrassing all this must have been for him, even shaming him for it. Well-deserved karma, I believe. The servants all felt joy seeing the cruel Duke like that. But also, as exemplified by Lucy, they all felt anger with the way Duke Armin harmed Scarlet. Nonetheless, Scarlet is as bubbly as always, even informing Lucy of a gift she has for her for later use. In fact, Scarlet's happy because all the effort she exerted was well worth it to save her dear friend Lucy. Charlian is waiting outside when Scarlet approaches him, as bubbly as ever. He asks about her condition and she says she's fine. He soon talks about their next date, and Scarlet thinks it would be a good time to have a rest since the fairies are close to being born in the safe zone. As if he can read minds, Charlian decides that they should take a break, citing that grueling adventure they just had. This is good for Scarlet since she also thinks of Glenn. If Charlotte doesn't have anything against Charlian, Glenn's death, then the original story won't start. However, she notices Charlian's mood sour, with his expression reflecting his sudden mood swing. With that, he left the castle with a sad, somewhat disappointed face. I gather he just wants to spend time with you, Scarlet. Meanwhile, Adrian is writing Scarlet a letter, mainly to tell her about the progress on the Monster Forest research, but also about Glenn Masquer, who's receiving treatment well when they entrusted him to them. Adrian laments how Charlian is falsely blamed for the extinction of the Masquer family. In any case, when Glenn wakes, he'll have an answer for the rumors. As for Scarlet, she finally visits the safety zone, that's the tree, and is delighted to find it had bored fruit. She also commends Izar's job of taking care of the trees. Now, all that's left to do is wait for the fairies. But as soon as she discovers the fairies were already there, she mistakes one for a bug, but in reality, she meets the fairies earlier than expected, and they look nothing like what she thought. They're cute, but not hot like in the novel. Anyway, there's 4 of them. She names them the same as Sherla's original fairies, Gil, Belle, and Nell. With acquiring fairy stones at a halt, Scarlet thinks she'll rely on her mother's inheritance to move to the countryside, but she's spent most of it. At a loss for what to do, she sees the Duchess going to attend a management meeting. Scarlet is reminded that the Duchess was once a businesswoman, so in order to solve her income problem, she decides to meet her. Scarlet tells Melia that she knows she'll be alone if her engagement with Charlian gets broken. Using the remaining property will allow her to live a rich life, but the question is whether she will live in poverty or wealth for a long time. Melia then asks Scarlet if she intends to ask for her money, But Scarlet quickly denies this and tells Melia that she wants to hear the Duchess's advice on earning money for her to survive. Scarlet tells Melia that although Melia hates her and is also capable of killing her but still never tries to, they both hate their family the same. Thus, Scarlet tells Melia that she plans to take revenge on the Duke while thinking to herself that she needs Melia to teach her, since she can't rely solely on her memories of the original work forever, and that she should at least have information about the economic and social structures of the Empire, because these things can't be known just by reading the novel. Scarlet also tells Melia that she wants to know how to handle economic activities, and relearn the basic knowledge and etiquette required to be a noble. Hearing this, Melia then tells Scarlet that she can hire an etiquette teacher for Scarlet. However, Scarlet quickly responds that it's not only about etiquette, but also about learning from Melia how she establishes herself and her business, even in their cruel Armon family. Scarlet thinks she also wants to learn how to survive independently as a woman from Melia. After hearing Scarlet's reasons, Melia smirked and found it funny, reminding her that if Scarlet had been obedient, she would have learned from it long ago. Then she stood to leave the room. Scarlet then tries to stop Melia by telling her that she will obey Melia obediently as long as Melia does not lose her temper because the person she wants to be angry with is not her but the Duke. She also tells Melia that if she helps, she'll make the Duke suffer. After hearing this, Melia asks Scarlet what her plan is, but Scarlet tells her she only needs to wait and see for herself. The following morning, Scarlet and Lucy are on the way to Grazioso. Scarlet plans to show that she's a devout believer because recently, the Kaelor imperial family and the Temple of Grazioso have clashed in the past. The original owner of the empire, the temple, and not the imperial family. But when the temple killed the royal family, that is when the power is divided. This is why Scarlet plans to show deep loyalty to the temple, an enemy of the imperial palace, so it will be difficult for her to be the emperor's fiancé. Lucy then asks if Scarlet also intends to donate the necklace she got on her 17th birthday, to which Scarlet nods since it's useless to her. She thinks the temple will like it since she heard that the nobles cut off their financial supply from the temple. Girl, not the necklace! What if it's the signet? Upon arriving at the temple, Scarlet tells a priest she would like to donate to the shrine while showing him her donation. Seeing jewels, she is then led to the shrine. Scarlet smiles at her plan because the shrine is at the center of the temple and is a perfect place to show off her religious beliefs. Upon arriving at the shrine, the high priest instructs Scarlet to place her donation in the box. Scarlet notices that the box is empty and asks the high priest if she needs to pray first. The priest tells her that it's fine to skip the prayer since all the empty box needs is donations. Scarlet is shocked by how vulgar the priest is, but gets the jewelry from Lucy since she wants to make the offering herself. When Scarlet is about to make the offering, she notices a black hyena pattern on the box, which makes her stop since she doesn't want to be involved in black magic. Scarlet then asks herself why the black magician's new mark is in the shrine. The priest then asks Scarlet what the problem is and tries to convince Scarlet not to hesitate and hurry up. Scarlet then realizes that things aren't simple and that it will be bad if she gets involved with black magicians, thus she quickly tells Lucy to take their belongings since she's returning to the carriage. Hearing this, the priest soon follows her and again tries to convince Scarlet to give her donations. Scarlet then rejects the priest and tells him she has an appointment while walking faster, thus the chase between Scarlet and the priest begins. Meanwhile, Clover is also at the temple to inform the priest that the emperor will stop delivering food. After delivering the news, Clover proceeds to leave. While walking, he is shocked to see Scarlet also in the temple while being chased by the priest. Shadows 1 and 2 then call Clover's attention since they're still acting on surveillance. One shadow then reports to Clover that Scarlet came to the shrine to donate but returned home without donating anything, thus frustrating the high priest. Clover then instructs them to help Scarlet escape. Once again, Scarlet achieved the opposite of her goal. Upon arriving at home, Scarlet sees Izar and quickly hands her an imperial letter. Scarlet is curious since Charlion's actions before suggest he will not contact her for a while, but upon reading his letter, she notices how soft-spoken he is, and he tells her he wants to schedule their meeting earlier. While Izar and Scarlet are busy with the letter, Melia arrives at the scene and sees how close the two are, which surprises her since they are closer than she thought. Seeing Melia's expression, Scarlet then holds Isar's arms and tells Melia that she and Isar need to leave since they need to talk about some things just between siblings, while acting close and clingy with Isar, which shocks and annoys Melia. Scarlet just barely made her stepmother an ally. Why would she annoy her like that? Next, while in the room, Izar asks Scarlet if the letter is from Charlion, which Scarlet confirms again. Izar then asks Scarlet why she is upset about it, when in fact it is good news since she is the Emperor's fiancé, while looking at Scarlet's gloomy face. Scarlet then lies in her bed, realizing Charlian might already know the mess she made at the temple by now, and then he should be ashamed of her. However, he questions why he is still nice to her. Izar again looks at the letter and comments that Charlian's tone doesn't match his looks. Hearing this, Scarlet quickly grabs Izar's face, which catches him off guard. Izar then asks Scarlet what she's doing, but Scarlet urges Izar cutely if she's beautiful too. Hearing this, Izar shoves Scarlet's hand, shouting at her to get off him and calling her a weirdo. Izar also swears on her that she has been acting strange ever since she fell ill. Scarlet again tries to act ladylike while telling Izar that she didn't see it that way, and then they both know that she's not ladylike. Scarlet then tells Izar that the only reason Charlian is nice to her is her unique looks, and that she doesn't know what to do since she can't ruin her beautiful face. Izar is shocked and disgusted by Scarlet's stupid and overly acting behavior. He tells her he's leaving while reminding her to sleep early instead of looking in the mirror. Izar is this close to getting Scarlet drug tested. Days pass, and it's finally the morning of the official meeting. Scarlet plans to destroy whatever fantasy Charlian has on her during their date. While preparing, Scarlet tells the maids she wants to look extra beautiful today. Next, Scarlet arrives at the palace and looks at the flowers. While she's busy admiring the beautiful place, Charlian speaks to her to get her attention. He then asks Scarlet if she has been waiting for so long, but Scarlet tells him that she's lost track of time while admiring the garden. Scarlet then asks Charlian if his work is done for the day, and he nods to her. Upon hearing this, Scarlet smiles and approaches him. When she walks towards him, Charlian extends his hand, which Scarlet also takes. When Scarlet is close to Charlian, she suddenly smells something and thinks it might be an iron smell. However, she moves closer to Charlian only to confirm that the scent of blood makes her worry. Now she's concerned, but we all know it's not blood from how he acts. Charlian remembers the attack that happened in his bedroom early that morning. 4 assassins tried to attack him while sleeping, but it did not take even a few seconds for them to die without a noise. After killing the assassins, he then questions why Pan's attack had to be on that day that he would meet with Scarlet. Scarlet then calls Charlian's attention, worriedly asking him if there is a smell of blood. Scarlet then starts touching him while searching for any wounds and reprimanding him for coming to the meeting, even if Charlian might be injured. Seeing Scarlet's reaction, Charlian asks her if she's worried for him, which Scarlet quickly agrees to, while thinking that even if she wants to break the engagement, she still doesn't wish for Charlian to die. Charlian smiles after seeing Scarlet worry about him, and then tells her that it is not his blood, but adds that he almost wishes that it was his since she's making a big fuss over it. Hearing this, Scarlet moves and walks away from him since she feels a little embarrassed. Charlian then follows her while asking her where she's going, but Scarlet shouts at him to stop following her. Then Charlian smiles at her and tells her that she might get lost. He also reminds her about wanting to have dessert before taking a walk. Scarlet stops after hearing about the dessert and follows Charlian to the table. Next, while they're eating, Charlian explains to Scarlet that Pan tried to attack him this morning. Scarlet only answers by saying that it must be tough being of such high status, which earns a glare from Charlian. Charlian then asks Scarlet about the thing that she wants to show him. Scarlet then remembers her plan and tells Charlian to look closely since she practiced so hard for 4 days. Scarlet then starts to make funny faces, such as a monkey and a pig, hoping to shatter Charlian's fantasy of her, which freezes Charlian after seeing what she did. I love how all her plans make her more endearing. After the meeting, the 2 shadows of Charlian are waiting in his office. One shadow still laughs at how Scarlet acts and thinks she is something, while shadow number 2 reprimands him by telling him that Scarlet is still the Emperor's fiancé. Charlian then arrives at the office and starts to instruct his shadows that they'll be destroying Pan today, which shocks them since Charlian told them before to respect their contribution and traditions. Charlian then tells them that it doesn't matter and adds that he will also not be joining them to prepare the army, which confuses shadow number 2. However, shadow number 1 explains to the other shadow that Charlian doesn't want to destroy Pan himself because he will smell like blood. After the shadows leave, Charlian again remembers what Scarlet did and starts laughing out loud. Upon arriving home, Scarlet realizes how shameful her stunt was, but thinks that her plan may have worked, since Charlian didn't say a word until they parted ways. As she's about to go inside her home, Scarlet sees Izar running towards her. Izar then grabs Scarlet and asks her to walk with him. Scarlet notices Izar's uneasiness and realizes the Duke has been drinking again. She remembers that the Duke didn't stop at simply making a scene whenever he was drunk. He also refused to listen to anybody and became unbelievably strong. Scarlet then confronts Izar when the Duke starts to beat him. While holding his arms, Izar is full of bruises. Izar tries to hide it and tells her that the bruises are from his horseback riding, but Scarlet does not believe it. She then tells him she can't take it anymore and will confront the Duke. Next, when Scarlet arrives at the door of the Duke's office, the butler then tries to stop her and advises her to talk to the Duke some other time, but Scarlet walks past him. Scarlet then opens the door slightly and she hears voices talking about them trying to convince the Lachiel child, but then the child runs away. Another voice then frantically asks who they will sacrifice if the child runs away. Another voice then explains to them that Duke Armin has another one that will work just fine, and then continues to tell them that he also killed the child who ran away, and gives some time for the power to reach their place since there is no more surviving Lachiels. Hearing these things, Scarlet remembers 3 houses with the powers of the dead gods, namely Kalor, Lachiel, and Armin. The 3 are the ones who imprison the demon god, whom the Black Wizard is trying to free. Ironically enough, the powers of the 3 families are needed to free the demon god, and once all direct descendants are dead, the powers return to where they belong. Scarlet then continues to eavesdrop and hears that the Duke promises to the wizard that he will sacrifice Izar, his son, which enrages and shocks Scarlet. Really? Sacrificing his son for his benefit makes him the worst father ever! After learning of the Duke's plan, Scarlet and Izar are in her room. Izar tells Scarlet that he already knows the Duke plans to kill him since the Duke thinks that he has the seal of Armin's house. But he explains to Scarlet that he doesn't remember anything regarding the seal. Izar also tells Scarlet that the Duke seems to have given up on finding the seal since he started to send some assassins to kill him. After telling Scarlet about this, Izar sighed since he couldn't believe their father was willing to do something extreme, while Scarlet remained silent and in shock. After a short silence, Scarlet asks Izar if he is fine leaving their home. Izar tells Scarlet that she should not act naive since they're in the Armin's house, and thus they can never escape. Scarlet then realizes that even if they are both adults, there is not a lot they can do but get rid of their ties and obligations. Scarlet tries to lighten the mood and tells Izar that they can work together to screw over that piece of garbage since she is sure that they can find the weakness of the Black Wizards, which makes Izar agree with her. Scarlet then tells Izar that they first need to make sure he is protected, and she then smiles at Izar while telling him that it's time for him to find a job. The next day, Scarlet visits the fairies. When she arrives, she tells them it is safe to come out. When Scarlet sees the fairies, she quickly notices how fast they've grown. The fairy shows Scarlet their gift, but she tells them that they don't need to give her one since they're friends, though she stops upon seeing that the fairy's gift is a fairy stone. Scarlet then asks the fairies what they want in return, and they answer that they only wish for fruits, thus Scarlet happily agrees. Next, Scarlet sells the fairy stone to Charlion and only asks for 30 platinum coins and a condition to hire Izar to work by Charlion's side, and that Izar needs to leave the Armin house a week from now, and also asks Charlion to protect him. Scarlet then tells Charlion that Izar is talented and has passed the administrative exam. After hearing this, Charlion agrees and asks Clover to bring him a contract. Charlion also assures her there'll be no backstabbing between them since he is the Emperor. Oh boy, this man is really in love. Charlion can even give her a country if Scarlet asks for it. Next, while they're walking, Scarlet shares about Santa Claus, and Charlion curiously asks her who that man is. Scarlet then explains that Santa Claus is a man who gives gifts to good children once a year. Hearing this, Charlion tells Scarlet that if he is real, he will exploit the man and make him give the children the best education and make the children work under the Chancellor or the Knights when they become adults. Still, Scarlet stops him and informs him that if Santa finds out, he will never want to work with Charlion. Scarlet then gives Charlion a book she has recently enjoyed and asks him to take a quick look at it. Charlion asks her if she wants to make him read it right now, which Scarlet agrees to with a smile. After reading the book, Charlion tells Scarlet that it's just another romance novel and that there's hardly anything special about it. Scarlet opposes it and tells him it is special since the male lead is perfect, whereas the male lead is obsessed with the female lead. Scarlet then tells him that it is exceptional since the characters talk differently, wherein they become equal with their partner when they marry. Even if they are not polite when talking to each other, they still have to respect what they say. While Scarlet is full of life, she explains to Charlion what she means by respect. Scarlet then explains to him that if there is no respect, the relationship will get all messed up, which means that respect is the source of happiness. After hearing this, Charlion is amazed by Scarlet and asks if that is the quality she seeks in her lover. Scarlet then starts to freeze and notices that her heart begins to beat loudly, but she associates this with the feeling that something terrible is happening. Girl, nothing terrible is happening, and you're just starting to fall in love! Next, on their walk inside the palace, Charlion asks Scarlet what she wishes for as his fiancé. Scarlet then thinks about it and quickly tells him she wishes they be friends forever. After hearing this, Charlion's expression becomes sour, and he tells her that he can't grant her wish. But Scarlet protests since he promised her that he would grant her a wish. Charlion reminds her that he did not promise, but merely asked her. To stop Scarlet from bugging him, he tells her he can't promise it will last forever, but will be friends with her for now. After arriving at the Armin's house, Scarlet informs Izar that he'll be working with Charlion, and that his work will start tomorrow. Scarlet stops talking after noticing Izar being quiet. She then asks him what he's thinking. Izar tells her that it will be tough for Scarlet to get the elders' approval of her being a duke, and the elders will be super strict on her, especially in a normal situation. Hearing this, Scarlet smiles at Izar and assures him that even if that's the case, it's still okay, and that she will have to give it a try. One night, Scarlet overhears Duke Armin talking to the Black Wizard, mentioning Kaelor to be their sacrifice, all because he became an executive officer for His Majesty. He continues to be an obstacle in their path, which they dislike. To them, she is just a young lady with a temper who was happily sold off to the Emperor as his fiancé after being abused by her father. They think Charlion is the real problem. However, it seems like they're also targeting her as well, since she is still a descendant of House Armin, making her a decent sacrifice. As a resolution, they plan to use Baba, a true priest, under the guise of a healer. Although they've already stolen 2 sacred objects from him, it's fortunate that they still find him useful. One of the sacred objects that the Black Wizard has in possession has the ability to put someone in a god's slumber and imprison them. Additionally, the body will be asleep while the soul will be locked up. Escaping from that prison of one's own free will is impossible. Even with Lashael's luck and Kaelor's powerful ability of judgment, it cannot be done. This certain power is so strong that only the foresight of House Armin can provide an escape. Since there's a limit to how much of the demon god's powers the Black Wizards can use while he's imprisoned, they stole some sacred objects of the lower gods that may be of use. That is the only way they'll be able to defeat the powers of the 3 dead gods. Even having a direct connection with the demon god isn't enough. They can only break him free if they bring all 3 of the dead gods' powers together. Because of this, they decide to take advantage of the fact that Scarlet has the seal of House Armin, which Baron cannot take for himself. If they imprison the owner of the seal, they won't have to worry about her becoming the head of the house. Duke Armin is a bit hesitant, but eventually agrees with the Black Wizard's sentiment in the end. Soon, a box will be delivered to his mansion, and inside it there will be a book that Baba made in order to store the relics of the gods. He simply has to open the door for him when he comes to the mansion to fetch the book. The moment Baba touches it must be awaited, since he needs to be knocked unconscious and locked in Scarlet's room. Apparently, time flows differently once imprisoned inside the book, and life will simply repeat infinitely. A year spent inside the book is the equivalent of a week in the outside world. As Scarlet spends an eternity in that book, she will lose her grip on reality. It would take a miracle for her to regain consciousness. As a matter of fact, that would only happen if 2 of the 3 houses, Kaelor, Lashael, and Armin, sired offspring who became linked in soul with one another, or if those offspring got engaged through a powerful magic contract. The holy text states that one must return from the dead in order to harness 2 of the gods' powers, essentially meaning death. However, Duke Armin and the Black Wizard had no idea that somebody who fit into that criteria did, in fact, exist. On the other hand, Scarlet makes sure that they won't get what they want on her watch. You go, girl. You're so brave and I love it. The following day, Baba's presence in the mansion is expected, so she instructs the guard first thing to quietly lead the guest to her room as soon as he arrives. Later on, he finally arrives to claim his book, as he was told he would find it there. In the library, before Scarlet hands him the book, she informs him that it's supposed to be cursed and was made to store the relics of the gods. She then proceeds to tell him the rest of the details that she heard from the Black Wizard and Duke Armin's conversation. Initially planned to lock both of them in the eternal sleep, she is certain that Emperor Kaelor will be next. Because she has too much knowledge about the details of the Black Wizard's plan, Baba accuses her of being one of them. Scarlet immediately denies it and instructs him to check that 2 of his sacred objects have gone missing to prove him wrong. Eventually, he believes her, but he's still convinced that she must want something in return. She feels enlightened that they are now on the same page. With that, she shares her thoughts about the Black Wizards trying to free the demon god. Shucks, I just hope their relationship turns out amazing! Later that day, Duke Armin gets scolded by the Black Wizard upon finding out that their plan wasn't successful. Truthfully, he was able to receive the box earlier and waited for Baba to come. However, he never came, and the box vanished into thin air. It's suddenly nowhere to be found in the mansion. Despite telling the truth, the Black Wizard remains unconvinced and starts getting pissed. She thinks the Duke is being utterly useless, leading him to be kicked out of their initial plan. Meanwhile, Scarlet witnesses their conversation once again and feels relieved that their plan isn't going well. She's definitely going to get a good night's sleep. He totally deserves that. I hate that guy so much. On the other hand, Scarlet is assigned to make her and the Emperor break off their engagement no matter what it takes. In that case, that leaves her no choice but to have to kill one of them. The next day, Scarlet claims that Baba gave her the bracelet of the goddess of bonfires and the ring of the god of the moon in order to protect both her and Charlion from the Black Wizards, since they are descendants of Kaler and Armin. She shows the sacred objects to him, however, he still doesn't know the exact powers that they have. She doesn't think that the goddess of bonfires was very prominent, even though she existed for a very long time. Unfortunately, the Emperor does not know anything about her. There's nothing fundamentally mythical written about her either. All that Scarlet was able to manage to dig up was the drawing of a bonfire on the very corner of the page of the creation myth. It has the power of healing and resurrection. With the goddess's power, one can absorb the pain of others and purify it within themselves. It won't hurt, but the user's body will be weakened. They say that once someone starts to heal others by absorbing their pain, they'll become more and more like the goddess. Still, Charlion doesn't think she should use it frequently. If Scarlet appears to be unwell, that would be concerning. It's quite surprising that he's worried for her, so she assures him that there's nothing to be scared of since it's not going to hurt her. Anyway, one more thing about the sacred object of the god of the moon is that the moon doesn't exist. The thing in the night sky is merely another star. Soon after, Charlion gently reminds Scarlet not to put herself in danger by trying to handle everything on her own. If anything comes up in the future, he insists that she talk to him about it first. Later on, the topic shifts to the way he's talking to her. Remembering what she mentioned the other day about the ideal way two lovers or a married couple would act. Now that they have already established friendship, regardless of what their relationship on paper is, being engaged to each other, in reality, they're simply just friends. Basically, Scarlet is trying to say that Charlion doesn't have to be so sweet and caring when he's talking to her. She reminds him to act the way he usually does. However, it seems like he has something else in mind, as he says that she'll be the only person that he will treat this way, leaving her confused. Excuse me, mister, what exactly do you mean by that? Before Charlion leaves, he softly brushes the cookie crumbs from Scarlet's lips, tasting them afterward. Out of nowhere, he compliments her, as if he's rehearsing how to be a good lover, fully absorbing her words differently. She anticipated that he would break things off, rejecting her due to the lack of interest while keeping their friendship intact. However, judging by his current behavior, it seems her plan has fallen apart. Uh-oh, it seems like you can't get rid of him, girl. Shortly, Charlion asks Scarlet if she has chosen a partner for the ball already. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a partner for the banquet yet. Initially, she was planning on going with Izar since he's her brother. In fact, the aristocrats might talk if she doesn't show up to an official event with her fiancé. Upon this realization, she invites him to be her partner for the ball. Without hesitation, he immediately accepts her request. Admittedly, Scarlet is terrible at dancing, so Charles offers to teach her. She can't help but show excitement as she plans to arrive at the Armin estate tomorrow afternoon. Afterward, he proceeds to head home. Upon returning home, he acknowledges that he's never really enjoyed dancing, particularly the dancers' forced smiles, which always disgusted him. Yet now, Charlion finds himself hating the label of Tyrant. The silver ring on his finger, whose powers he still doesn't understand, has chosen him as its master. Because Scarlet gave him the ring, he feels compelled to take care of it. Shortly after, he hastily requests a dance instructor, only to feel foolish for the decision moments later. The only thing he can picture is her gazing around the ballroom, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The next day, just before their dance lesson, Charlion reassures her, telling her not to be nervous, though truth be told, she isn't nervous at all. A moment later, he softly reminds Scarlet that she's supposed to gently place her hands on his. But when she does, she grabs his hand a little too tightly. After a few seconds of adjusting, they proceed to practice dancing. She knows full well that she's terrible at dancing, and it's no secret to anyone. Even the maids watching from the sidelines are taken aback, surprised by just how bad they both are. That's actually so funny and quite humbling. Admittedly, Charles is not fully prepared yet. Upon noticing that something is off, Scarlet insists that they take a short break first. A few moments later, they resume with their dance practice once again. This time is much better than before, as they feel more comfortable now. It is also evident that they are progressing as they continue to practice. In the middle of dancing, Scarlet opens up a topic about love marriage. Since Charlian doesn't seem to be aware of it, she explains that it is a thing wherein you build a romantic relationship with someone before you actually get married to each other. Additionally, meeting your partner must be serendipitous, and the stars must really have to align in order for things to work out. As a couple, it is also important to overcome obstacles together. Charlian is a bit confused that Scarlet is suddenly bringing up this topic. In her defense, that is what they need to live happily ever after. However, in the back of her mind, she wants to stomp on his foot and offend him so much that he'll break off the engagement. Once they made eye contact for the first time after dancing for quite some time now, she couldn't help but express how his face is such a blessing. Moreover, she now feels embarrassed as she admits that she's terrible at dancing since she's basically a beginner. Girlie is obviously changing the topic. Without warning, Charlian lifts Scarlet into his arms. He assures her that it's no problem since they're already practicing. He also realizes she has not responded to his earlier question, so he brings up her earlier mention of a love marriage. Honestly, it's a concept that may not be relevant at the moment, but the future is uncertain. She believes that once he meets the love of his life, he'll be completely captivated. With this in mind, he interprets her words as a hint about something she desires. She quickly denies it completely, admitting that she likes to keep things realistic. Afterward, Charlian decides to end their dance lesson for the day, as he has responsibilities awaiting him back at the palace. Scarlet, recognizing his obligations, encourages him to be on his way. On the other hand, the maids are talking about their performance. They were not expecting Scarlet to be so bad at dancing since there haven't been any rumors about her dancing skills. The thought of doing it on purpose crosses Lucy's mind. Aside from that, she couldn't help but notice just how fondly His Majesty was gazing at Lady Scarlet. It was almost like they were lovers. Why would she be doing that on purpose, though? What would she get out of doing that? A few days later at the Armin estate, Scarlet shows off her elegant red dress to Baba. The way she looks incredibly amazing is undeniable, so he compliments her in a subtle way. By the way, he has been staying at the Armin mansion since what happened. It turns out that the only reason she came to his room was to show off her outfit for the ball. Now that she is done with her agenda, he's now left alone. Later that day, Charles finally arrives to escort Scarlet and go to the event together. Upon arriving, she admits that she feels a little bit nervous, given that she has never been to an event similar to this before. He reassures her that he'll stay by her side the entire time, offering his hand as they head inside together. As they enter, their names are called out to acknowledge their presence. At first, Charlian is meant to be Scarlet's first dance partner as promised. However, he unexpectedly insists that she dance with Izar first, leaving her puzzled by this change in their original arrangement. Ultimately, the decision rests with her. Oh no, why this sudden change of plan? She waits for him to offer a compliment and asks if there's anything else he'd like to say. After a brief pause, he finally tells her how beautiful she is. Indeed, Scarlet is undeniably beautiful, and she knows it, especially today as she looks particularly stunning at the event. She almost mistakes her reflection for a goddess. To Charlian, she is nothing short of perfect. Caught off guard by his affectionate words, she steps outside for some fresh air to gather her thoughts before her emotions get the best of her. On the balcony, she finds herself reflecting on how incredibly handsome he is, able to turn even the cheesiest remarks into something truly romantic. Girl, you're obviously in love with him. However, she reminds herself that this can't be happening, especially since Charlian is destined to be with someone else. Though it makes perfect sense that she's developing feelings for him. After all, he's handsome, affectionate, and they're engaged. Still, she doesn't want him to realize how she truly feels. Scarlet is so absorbed in her thoughts that she doesn't notice Baba until he approaches her. He had been deliberately trying to stay out of sight, which is why she was caught off guard. Anyway, he wonders why she's out on the balcony instead of dancing with Charlian. Scarlet thinks the same, but realizes she must have misunderstood. She tries to convince herself that he must have had a good reason for not keeping his promise about their first dance. As far as Baba is concerned, he believes it's better to take action and potentially regret it later than to regret inaction. With that in mind, he asks Scarlet how she truly feels about the Emperor. Scarlet finds the question about her feelings for Charlian easy to answer. She replies that she just wants him to be a bit happier. Unbeknownst to her, he is standing just behind her listening to every word. In the middle of Scarlet and Baba's conversation, Charles suddenly interrupts. Realizing that the two haven't been introduced yet, she promptly takes the opportunity to formally introduce them to each other. Afterward, Baba takes the initiative to leave the couple alone. Once they're alone, he tries to make up for not fulfilling his promise earlier. This is also where Scarlet starts to realize and acknowledge that she has feelings for the Tyrant. Admittedly, she likes him, but she doesn't think she's the type to become a hopeless romantic. OMG, I seriously ship them. Please tell me they'll end up together. With this in mind, she chooses to stop practicing their love marriage thing together anymore. Meanwhile, in Charlion's perspective, he has so much power in his grasp, but he's only been able to protect himself. In fact, everybody who he has ever tried to protect and who has tried to protect him is dead. That is why he makes an effort to surround himself with people he wouldn't have to protect, and to not allow anybody else in. However, at this point, Charlion admits to himself that he simply loves watching the world through Scarlet's eyes. Oh man, that's so sad! His traumatic past is truly affecting him. On a random night, she wakes up in the middle of the night having a bad dream, involving killing and punishing the Black Wizard's targeted people. In her dream, the Black Wizards were acting as if they were assassins watching their prey. The next morning, Baba comes into her room to give her a wooden box that he found in the corner of his room. He doesn't have any clue what it is, but Scarlet's name is on it. Inside the old box is revealed to be Scarlet's original diary. It's surprising that her cherished diary was hidden away in Baba's room, especially considering how far it is from where she was staying. While reading someone else's diary typically feels inappropriate, she feels acceptable in this case since she's embodying the original owner. She carefully goes through the diary entries, but when she reaches the end, her blood runs cold. It reveals that she's a fraud, prompting her to deduce that she might actually be a detective. I'm so confused. I want to know the whole story already. Additionally, it's revealed that the Duke isn't Scarlet's biological father, and Baron abandoned his lover to marry his brother's pregnant girlfriend because he wanted the seal of House Armyn. This explains why Scarlet acquired the House Armyn mark without her knowledge. Once she becomes the head of the house, nobody will expect her to have the seal. Momentarily, something urges her to make Baron's life miserable and take possession of the seal that he wants so badly. Later that day, Scarlet approaches Melia for assistance, presenting a medicine crafted from a winter flower to use against Baron. She then explains that when the flower is powdered, it serves as a powerful hair remover. However, when juiced, it transforms into a poison that can render a man impotent. As Melia and Baron sit down for tea, his rudeness is evident as he treats her poorly, just as she anticipated. He even boasts about his attraction to other women, clearly showing that he has no real feelings for her. When she starts to stand up for herself, his anger flares and he attempts to assert his dominance, making it clear that their conversation is only escalating. Melia, stand your ground! Don't let any man treat you like that, girl! Melia, the Duchess, stands composed as she endures the sharp criticism of the patriarchal Duke Armyn. Despite his relentless words, she remains calm and unshaken. In her mind, Scarlet is the only person who truly understands her, perhaps the only one who ever could. Before Armyn can respond, he feels a sharp pain. The room spins and he stumbles, struggling to keep his balance. As he looks up, his blurred vision catches Melia laughing wickedly behind her fan. The drug had worked! Soon after, a letter arrives at Scarlet's residence. She feels a flicker of confusion upon hearing it wasn't from His Majesty, though it's clear she's been expecting one. The letter reveals that the child left in Lady Adrian's care has fully recovered and has been identified as Glenn Machiar, of House Machiar. Though 20 years old, he addresses Scarlet as Madam. Scarlet already knows who he is, yet his formality puzzled her. Still, this aligns perfectly with her plans. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Charlion faces a red-haired woman. Her unease echoed in his mind, a result of the sacred ring Scarlet had given him, allowing him to hear even unspoken thoughts. At his command, Number 1 appears behind her, seizing her by the neck. Panic consumes her as she fears her deception had failed. She knows that his power was divine, an incarnation of a god's will. Then realization struck. Charlion had been reading her mind all along. The red-haired woman is convinced that the sacred object she possesses should have been impossible for the Tyrant to penetrate. Yet, even as that belief wavered, she continues to threaten him, insisting that he is never meant to be alive. Charlion, however, paid her no attention. In his mind, she is nothing more than a delay, an obstacle keeping him from his meeting with Scarlet. Her thoughts soon turned frantic, circling around the death of her lover, Glenn Machiar, and whether the Tyrant even remembers him. Charlion remains unmoved. With a faint, cruel smirk, he raises a single hand. The stillness of the forest is shattered, broken only by the woman's scream as pain overtook her. Meanwhile, in the safe zone, the fairies rush toward Scarlet, overflowing with excitement at her return. To make up for her absence, she presents them with seeds she had carefully prepared. The fairies erupt into joyful cheers, their delight echoing all around her. Behind her, Charlion arrives, his presence as striking as ever. As they exchange a few words, he asks about the baby fairies. While Scarlet explains, she becomes aware of his steady gaze. Yet instead of unease, what lingered in her mind was how unusually handsome he looked. Same, girl. I mean, who wouldn't get distracted? When Scarlet encourages the fairies to greet him, they shrank back instead. Whispering among themselves, they claim that Charlion carried the scent of black eggplant, or worse, the same unsettling presence as the cruel fairies in the Imperial Palace, whose scent resembled blood. Those fairies often mocked them despite lacking the ability to create even a single fairy stone. Sensing their hesitation, Charlion shifts his approach. He offers them the finest fruits money can buy, and even promises seeds that could grow at any speed they desired. The effect is immediate. The fairies, once wary, quickly warm up to him. Like he just didn't torment someone earlier. Later, as they continue their quiet exchange, Scarlet shares her thoughts about Glen Machiar. Though their meeting has been delayed, everything is already in place. She only needs the right moment. Her true objective remains unchanged, and Charlion finds the idea appealing. The prospect of exposing the Duke and seeing Scarlet take his place clearly aligns with his interests. Encouraged by his approval, Scarlet allows herself a small, satisfied smile. By the following day, she arranges a secret meeting with the elders, ensuring it remains hidden from the still unconscious Duke. The elders gather, their reception of Scarlet's proposal far from unanimous. A few openly opposed it. One accuses her outright of seeking to replace the Duke, an ambition she does not deny. Another questions the need for a substitute when Duke Armin is still alive. Scarlet's response cuts cleanly through the room. He may be alive, but so is she. The remark left the chamber in stunned silence. I mean, is she wrong? A final elder challenges her further, asking when House Armin has ever truly valued them. Scarlet counters with calm certainty, affirming their importance, not just as figures of tradition, but as the very foundation of the territory's strength. She knows well that black magicians have long taken interest in House Armin, Lashael, and Kalor, yet they hesitate to invade, wary of the elders' protective magic guarding the land and its borders. Calling for their support, Scarlet is met with mockery. Some scoffed, suggesting she take them for fools. She meets it lightly, neither confirming nor denying. Then, without warning, scrolls appear across the table. Scarlet only smiles. She knows the truth each elder tries to bury, secrets the Duke himself is in. As the elders read, the atmosphere darkens, their expressions shifting into unease. Accusations of threats followed, but Scarlet dismisses them, framing her actions as a means of cooperation. Despite their anger, she offers a solution, that Scarlet would shoulder the burdens they could not escape, but on one condition. If a man can't, a woman can. They will name her the next Duke of House Armin. Somewhere within the Armin estate, a disheveled baron realizes he has been drugged through a cup of tea. Confusion quickly turns to fury as he questions how the Duchess even obtained it. The room fills with curses spilling from his mouth. He storms toward the door, only for it to swing open first. The butler strikes him square in the face. The Baron brushes it off as the butler apologizes, then demands to know where the Duchess is. He's told she has already left. Ow, that must have hurt! Do it again! His anger deepens when he notices the mansion is nearly empty despite his condition. The butler calmly assures him that Lady Scarlet remains, currently meeting with the elders. That alone agitates him further. She has no right to face them. Yet the butler reminds him that any member of House Armin holds that right. Worse, she presents evidence tied to Iar. With a snarl, the Duke shoves the butler aside and rushes out. Inside the meeting room, the elders begin to grasp the extent of the Duke's manipulation. Scarlet seizes the moment, pressing them further toward impeachment and urging a decision. The doors suddenly fling open. Heavy footsteps and Baron's furious shouting halt the meeting. But what greets him is not fear. It is the elders' darkened gazes and silent judgment. The tension in the room forces him to falter. Scarlet calls him out. He grits his teeth and orders her to be silent, but she only laughs, letting him speak. He takes the chance to belittle her, yet she merely smiles, unimpressed, and calmly returns the insult with far sharper composure. She even permits him to remain, only as a criminal observer. Then she resumes the meeting. One by one, the elders concede to impeaching the Duke. Baron freezes. Rage twists his expression as he draws a mysterious item and lunges towards Scarlet. In an instant, Davin tackles Baron to the ground. The impact sends him crashing into a table lined with potions, the glass shattering on contact. A strange liquid spills over him, and within seconds, his hair falls away. Yikes! His scream echoes in horror. An elder moves to approach, but Scarlet stops them. She steps forward instead, calm and unhurried, informing him that it is over. Baron recoils, ordering her to stay away. Scarlet only replies that no one can restore what he has lost. He will remain bald forever. The words drive him into a feral rage. Well deserved! After the meeting, Elphine, one of the elders, suggests a harsher punishment than mere confinement. She points out his attempt to attack Scarlet with a black object, and notes that this is not the first incident. Though she lacks full details, she is certain it is tied to a dangerous organization. Scarlet already knows which one: the Black Wizards. Scarlet reassures her that the matter will be handled soon. She decides to take custody of the object, still tainted with dark magic. Dion hesitates, aware of its danger, but Scarlet insists she will raise the issue with the Emperor. There is now a clear link between Baron and the Black Wizards, and she intends for all of them to survive what comes next. Later, in her room, Scarlet speaks with Izar. The former Duke's erratic behavior, once dismissed as drunkenness, now makes sense. It was the influence of the drug. Agreeing with Dion, she orders Izar to bind Armin and lock him in the castle's holding cell. Elsewhere, the red-haired woman seethes in frustration. Her plan to remind the Emperor of Scarlet Armin fails. Confusion lingers even more. Was he not close to her? Why did he let her go? She knows she could have been killed by him. And what did he mean when he said everything now rests on Scarlet? A white-haired woman, Dima, accompanies Elphine as she carefully rations out the mysterious black liquid. The stench is unbearable, drawing a complaint from Elphine. The woman calmly explains that it is called black water and reminds her that the substance is a fragment of an imprisoned demon god. Inside Lady Adrian's receiving chamber, the former Duchess acknowledges Scarlet's actions in resolving the Elder's conflict. Beyond that, she offers no further guidance. The conversation ends there. Izar, who has been present the entire time, grits his teeth before turning and leaving immediately after the dismissal. Soon after, Scarlet rides in a carriage on her way to meet the Emperor. Her thoughts wander. She admits to herself that she likes him, yet worries he may already be drawn to another. The thought irritates her, but she pushes it aside, deciding she will face her feelings directly. If things go poorly, she resolves that she will be the one to walk away first. Trusting in her charm, she even considers asking about his ideal type. When you're in love, but you have a reputation to protect. Upon arriving at a garden tent, she faces the Emperor and gathers the courage to ask her question. He pauses before answering, then describes someone bold and unrestrained, someone who acts without concern for others' judgment. The description grows more specific, too specific, and Scarlet feels herself flush. But his final remark halts her. He admires someone capable of destroying anyone who wrongs her. Scarlet realizes she does not fully fit that image. The Emperor's tastes are far more peculiar than she expected. She admits that his type would be hard to find. The Emperor reacts with visible exasperation, suggesting a misunderstanding between them. But Scarlet is already suppressing her disappointment. Still, she steadies herself and asks why he chose her to be engaged first. Ouch! Charlion's answer is simple. He had suspicions about House Armin. A faint, bitter smile forms on her lips as understanding dawns. She had only been a means to an end. Charlion has never said it outright, but Scarlet had her suspicions beforehand. It makes the truth slightly less painful, though it cannot fully cushion the sting. She assures Charlion that she understands if the engagement is called off. They're friends, after all. At the same time, she will work with the Emperor to confirm whether the Black Wizards are colluding with her family. She knows the Emperor is aware of it, so she wonders why they are even engaged. When they first met, she feared the Emperor might kill her if she broke the engagement. Still, part of her had secretly wished Charlian would insist on keeping it because he had feelings for her. Instead, the Emperor explains it is because she is in constant danger. Being his fiancé places her at risk, and that danger will persist even if they end the engagement. Scarlet recalls how all of the Emperor's previous fiancés died, along with every member of House Machiar. Scarlet asks if someone wants his fiancés dead. The Emperor confirms that a group exists who would kill anyone dear to him. Or the temple might target Scarlet. The enemies are closer than she imagined, and Scarlet realizes she must maintain her connection with Charlian. She blushes and directly asks the Emperor if this is to protect her. He only stares. Insistent, Scarlet leans in, just inches from his face, urging him to answer. The Emperor flushes, averting his gaze, and assures her nothing is wrong. He leaves it to her to uncover the truth herself, and decides to keep the black water pot for investigation. They agree to resolve their questions independently. Yee, tyrants to others! Cutie to Scarlet! Mischievous thoughts flit across her mind. Perhaps she still has a chance with the Emperor. Then her expression darkens. If the temple and the Black Wizards are uniting, she must stay within the manor. Outside the carriage, her vision catches a red-haired woman. Eyes wide, mouth agape, she reacts comically. Is that Sherla Diel? The crimson hair and eyes of Sherla stun Scarlet. Crimson eyes? As far as she remembers, Sherla is supposed to have evergreen eyes in the original novel. Normally flirtatious and fiery, Sherla now gives off an almost gothic aura. To Scarlet, it might not even be Sherla. The plot is supposed to start months from now, but the sudden change doesn't sit right. Clutching her sacred object, Scarlet marks Sherla, ensuring she can recognize her even if her appearance changes. Marking the ops, I see. Back at her manor, Scarlet receives a letter from Lord Brian and Lady Adrian. Reading its contents, she immediately orders Lucy to prepare a carriage. She has no time to waste. Finally, she will meet Glenn Machiar. At Lady Adrian's house, Scarlet asks for Glenn, only to be told he has been waiting at the door like a dog waiting for its master. Confused by the analogy, she follows Lady Adrian inside. She opens the door to find Glenn sitting at the side of his bed, physically appearing no older than 10. Scarlet can't help but admire how cute he looks. Suddenly, Glenn bursts into tears and throws himself into her arms, calling her sis, and pleading for her to promise never to leave him again. Out of instinctive affection, Scarlet embraces him, promising she will not. We are all suckers for cute faces! Once the moment passes, they formally introduce themselves. Scarlet wonders if Glenn is truly 20 or simply using his youthful appearance as a guise. As the head of House Armin, she too must present a face that cannot be underestimated. Curious, Scarlet asks why he calls her sis, despite never having met her. Glenn recounts how his sister gave her life for him, lamenting the trauma of losing his family, then resumes calling Scarlet sis. Scarlet allows it, comforting him, waiting patiently until he's ready for interrogation. Interrogation? Glenn rises from crying, still shaken as Scarlet explains the situation. Because he was found within the territory of House Armin and near the Black Forest, he is considered a peculiar case. On top of that, he called Scarlet a survivor before passing out, raising further suspicion. Scarlet continues, noting that strange individuals have been spotted around Armin territory ever since Glenn's discovery. She has many questions for him. Stepping out of the room, Lady Adrian and Lord Brian ask if she has interrogated Glenn. Scarlet explains that he tried to escape House Machiar, but was captured. He was forced by hypnosis from a mysterious red-haired woman, whose face he cannot recall, and was intended as a sacrifice. In her mind, Scarlet apologizes to Glenn for lying about the Black Wizards roaming Armin territory. Scarlet notes that Glenn can sense the energy of the Lashael inside her. When she asks Lady Adrian and Lord Brian why, they flinch, revealing they are hiding something. Scarlet guesses it may concern her mother's origins. Glenn steps in, comforting Scarlet, explaining that only powerful Lashaels can sense each other, and he inherited this ability despite being a distant relative. Scarlet decides to let Glenn come with her. At the palace, Emperor Charlion is informed that the temple has sent men. On the day he received his sacred object, he planted spies to detect any moves against Scarlet. And buying over a priest for information is unthinkable, but he cannot risk her safety. Outside the carriage, men clash violently. Scarlet fidgets and Glenn urges her to let him help. Before she can react, a man smashes the carriage window. Scarlet immediately embraces Glenn to shield him from the incoming axe. But before it strikes, the Emperor intervenes, saving them both. Concern laces the Emperor's voice as he asks Scarlet if she's all right. She isn't, as she is shaken by the incident, but she bows slightly, offering thanks for saving them. The Emperor smiles. After clearing the attackers, Scarlet clutches Charlion's hand, still trembling, yet expresses gratitude for his constant protection. Flustered, he responds that it is his honor to ease her burdens. She asks how he even knew their location. He lies, saying some of his men spotted her along the way, adding that the attackers were from the temple. Cold wind cuts between them, and he offers for them to rest inside the carriage. Inside, Scarlet drifts into light sleep, her head unconsciously leaning on the Emperor's shoulder, surprising him. Charlion slowly adjusts, positioning his hand behind her back while his other hand caresses her face, silently wishing this moment could last longer. From a distance, Sherla watches, her crimson eyes gleaming with disdain. She sees Scarlet as fortunate for taking Glenn and is perplexed by the Elder's benevolence in protecting Alashael. Biting her thumb, she vows never to lose control of the last remaining Lashael, more powerful than Kalor, but for now, she smiles evilly, planning to torment Scarlet later. Wow, she really is choosing villainy as a career! Meanwhile, Glenn shivers as he follows Charlion, who's carrying Scarlet through the hallway. The Emperor notices and asks what's wrong. Glenn confesses an ominous feeling gripping his heart. The Emperor reassures him that Scarlet is not a tool. His intentions are pure. Lashael's returned favors in kind. Without another word, he turns and walks on, instructing Glenn to remember that any further warning will not come in words. Walking down dark steps, Sherla chants that she must become the next successor of the demon god, unless a fairy king appears. But that seems impossible. A fairy king can only exist when a Lashael bonds with a fairy, and the last remaining Lashael does not even know he is a successor. Certain of her path, Sherla smiles and celebrates quietly. Don't be so sure. Meanwhile, Scarlet sits with Glenn, sipping tea as they talk. Glenn expresses concern over her plan to meet her fiancé on the battlefield. Azar appears, supporting Glenn's worries, both urging her to stay for her safety. A battlefield is hardly romantic. Even if she doesn't want to, Scarlet knows she has no choice. She must settle matters before facing the elders. When word arrives that the Emperor has delayed their meeting, she clenches her fists in frustration. Then, suddenly brightening, Scarlet turns to Glenn and urges him to accompany her, knowing he will stop her from doing anything reckless. Glenn hesitates, asking if she is serious, but Scarlet only smiles and confirms it. She adds that she will visit her farm first and expects him to be ready when she returns, leaving him stunned. Back at the safe zone, Scarlet finds the Emperor with Count Lumen and Captain Bensor. She greets them, and the Emperor fulfills his promise to the fairies. The fairies cheer, delighted they will no longer be mocked by the eggplant fairies. Charlion then turns to Scarlet, teasingly asking if she will show her gratitude. Caught off guard and flustered, she still complies, offering her praise. Soon after, she introduces the fairies to his companions. The Count insists on being called Clover, but the fairies bluntly reject him, claiming he cannot be Clover because he's not a fairy, and that they simply do not like him. Rejected from the club! The Count feels as though his heart has been pierced 1,000 times. The fairies explain that Clover is already a name used among their kind. Hearing this, Charlion questions Scarlet. If these fairies were only recently born, how could they know about eggplant and clover fairies? The fairies answer, they claim they know everything and see everything. They can grow quickly, but choose not to because they like Scarlet. Scarlet grows uneasy. In the original novel, Sherla summons fairies that take the form of lanky young men. She cannot understand why their affection for her would limit their growth. The fairies clarify. They grow when helping Scarlet and shrink when they do not. Charlion frowns, clearly annoyed. Growing to help Scarlet sounds like competition. Scarlet quickly shifts the topic, asking about their movements being hindered by eggplant fairies. The fairies admit they may be weaker, but they are still capable. Someone doesn't like competition. Deciding to keep them close, Scarlet resolves to take the fairies with her. They shower her with admiration, while behind them, Charlian watches with quiet displeasure. After a moment, he mutters that she could take him everywhere too. Scarlet, flustered, agrees. Soon after, Charlian explains they're gathering in the safe zone. The area suppresses magic, making it easier to detect anyone attempting to spy. Count Lumen adds that fairy stones can still function within the zone, allowing stored power to be used. He demonstrates channeling a spell flawlessly through a stone. The safe zone, he explains, is one of the most secure locations on the continent. Charlian then shows Scarlet a map, warning that the safe zone may soon become a battlefield. With rising tensions and rumors surrounding the lake and the moon, he asks for her support. Scarlet recalls her discussion with Barsha, now wondering how he knew of the moon without ever seeing it. Charlian explains that he has already sent Barsha ahead to the war zone, instructing him to pass by the lake along the way. Scarlet senses there must be a deeper reason behind those orders. Charlian reflects on the weight of their journey, its many duties, and adds that he still needs to question Glenn. When he asks if she will bring Mashiar, Scarlet agrees eagerly, knowing Glenn may hold critical information after being held captive by the Black Wizards. Charlian assures her that he will remain by her side wherever she goes. Meanwhile, Barsha follows the map Charlian provided. As night falls, he takes shelter in a nearby cabin, studying it closely. The flowers he seeks could turn the tide against the Black Wizards. He's less concerned about the two who stole the book and more about whoever intends to use it. He worries whether Scarlet and Charlian are ready to face such a threat. His thoughts drift to the lake that reflects the moon, a moon that vanished long ago when the demon god was sealed. Now, with Charlian wielding the ring tied to the god of the moon, the horizon itself feels uncertain. In his sleep, Barsha finds himself in a field of those very flowers. Rain falls, though he does not recall clouds. Turning back, he sees a looming figure, its skull-like form wrapped in waves of black and purple. He jolts awake, the demon god. Elsewhere, a cloaked man rejoices, believing their god has awakened. He speaks of a Lashael who should not have survived, one who was meant to die young. For now, she is no threat. Sherla appears, admitting her plans have failed and that Charlian cannot be swayed. Instead, she plans to ruin both him and Scarlet upon their arrival. The man smiles, eager to offer them as a feast for the demon god's return. Urgh, how evil! As Charlian rides, an ominous force stirs. The fairy's energy grows, pure yet overwhelming, like the presence of a fairy king. Charlian knows the fairies possess immense power, but if not for the prophecy Fra once gave him, he would not have minded it. Barsha had also warned him. He would become a storm to everyone around him, breaking them before eventually disappearing, and Scarlet would be no exception. The thought irritates him. He pushes it aside, convincing himself it's nothing more than empty words. We live for an easily bothered tyrant. Meanwhile, Sherla delights in the path Charlian has taken, one she has filled with hidden bombs and curses. Among them is a cruel spell that turns trust into betrayal, forcing victims to strike those they hold dear. She remains convinced that Scarlet is merely an Armon, distantly tied to a Lashael and nothing more. In Sherla's eyes, Scarlet will soon disappear, and she smiles at the thought of the Emperor mourning her, by his own doing. Arrogance tends to bite people back, just so you know. At a campfire, Scarlet sits in a quiet daze, watching the flames flicker. Charlian notices and warns her not to get too close, gently taking her hand. But Scarlet barely reacts. Her gaze remains fixed on the fire, her voice distant as she murmurs that it's too beautiful not to touch. Sensing something is wrong, Charlian acts immediately as she leans closer. He lifts her into his arms, carrying her away from the flames, concluding she must be drunk. Both are flustered by the sudden closeness. Yet, as Scarlet rests against him, one thought lingers in her mind. What is an Armon? Back in the House of Armon, Lady Amelia urges Izar to visit Baron and retrieve the mark of the house. Izar hesitates, but she does not allow doubt to linger. She sharply dismisses any attempt to pursue the position of heir while Scarlet is absent. When Azar questions her, Melia cuts him off, insisting it would be foolish not to speak to Baron before he dies. Then she reveals the truth. Scarlet is not the Baron's daughter, but the child of the previous Duke and his wife. The mark, she explains, grants immense protection to the head of House Armin, power greater than an army. Even the Baron covets it. More importantly, there are forces seeking to harm Scarlet. Melia presses further. Has Azar ever wondered why Scarlet has not been killed yet? It is because they intend to sacrifice her. Even if it sounds like a mere rumor, she warns him not to underestimate their enemies. Until recently, Scarlet had no protection. Her bond with the Emperor is still fragile, making her an easy target. Perhaps Baron held them back to claim the mark first, or perhaps even the Black Wizard seek it. Nothing is certain, except that they must act quickly. If Baron loses his sanity under torture, any valuable information will be lost. Melia firmly orders Azar to retrieve the mark at once, warning that its absence is weakening the magic protecting both the manor and the territory. And the plot thickens. Elsewhere, Scarlet awakens, wrapped in a blanket, with Charlian at her side. Her head pounds, reminding her of the assassin attack. She mentions hearing the fairies whisper Armin, causing Charlian to pause. When he asks about the mark, Scarlet grows confused. The fairies suddenly appear, explaining that she carries a jewel within her heart. However, suddenly the room darkens, and the fairies cry out. An ominous energy has appeared. From the book, Scarlet recalls the phenomenon. The room, once consumed by a black haze with dark pillar-like veins growing out of thin air. They are called the Losts, entities that drain a person's life force. The only way to face them is with the aid of fairies or the protection of a priest. Sherla had suggested retreating to the nearest temple, but Charlian turns away. Instead, he orders her to step back and unsheathes his sword, preparing to face the Losts head-on. Now, Scarlet tells Charlian immediately that it is a trap set by the Black Wizards and instructs Charlian on how to deal with them. Calling upon the fairies, she urges them to assist, promising rewards of fruit in return. Negotiation at its finest. With the fairies at her side, Scarlet stands firm. Charlian glances back at her, a laugh escaping him. He seems to relish both the battle and her presence. Meanwhile, Sherla, secretly controlling the Leosts, is caught off guard by how quickly they begin to fall. Panic sets in as she senses an unfamiliar force. The power of the winter wind, being used against them. She tries to convince herself it is not the judgment of Kalior, yet the overwhelming energy crashes against her control. One by one, the Leos break free from her grasp. Thought they were weak? Think again. Still, Sherla only laughs. Certain of her advantage, she vows to lay even more intricate traps, ones far harder to escape. After all, she's not far from reuniting with her dear toy, Glenn. 2 days have passed since the first appearance of the Leosts. Charlian and Scarlet have barely rested, and the same goes for the knights and soldiers. The monsters attack twice daily, while explosives greet them whenever they attempt to enter villages. Black magic surrounds them constantly. Thanks to the fairies, they still have enough energy to fight. Even so, Charlian finds himself wishing for open war rather than this relentless assault. He explains the situation to his commanders and decides that if it continues, the soldiers must return home. Fewer men mean less exposure, and a better chance to move unseen. Reluctantly, the troops withdraw. Soon after, the fairies report to Scarlet that they have completed her orders, calling her Letty. Charlian clearly dislikes the nickname, but Scarlet explains that it is easier for them. Not wanting to be left out, he insists on having one as well. This guy is so petty! Seizing the moment, Scarlet suggests they call each other by nicknames. Charlian grows flustered but agrees, awkwardly offering, "Your Majesty Charlie." Scarlet laughs and counters with Lady Letty, leaving them both embarrassed and blushing. Later, Scarlet decides to speak with Glenn, certain he will reveal more. Charlian offers to stay behind and supervise the fairies, knowing how much they favor her. That night, he finds Scarlet tormenting Glenn, not with cruelty, but with relentless tickling. I too would break under tickles, Glenn. Laughing and breathless, Glenn finally confesses that whenever he hears a certain voice, he falls under hypnosis. He cannot recognize it, and trying to remember only frightens him further, as if he might lose control again. Charlian concludes that a powerful wizard is behind it and warns that Glenn must be watched closely. Hearing this, Scarlet forms a bold idea that Glenn would make a far more effective bait than Baron. In a dim mansion, Sherla grips her wine glass, nearly cracking it in frustration. Little damage has been done to Charlian and his forces. This will be harder than she expected. His winter wind is stronger than anticipated, and the silver ring glows faintly, but it's clearly a sacred object. Her thoughts turn to the missing book. Barsha may be guarding it, yet she wonders how they obtained it in the first place. Still, their greatest problem is the fairies. How is Scarlet controlling them? The black wizards ensured the Lachaels were eradicated, and the knowledge of fairy summoning was erased long ago. Don't be so sure, Sherla. Sherla steadies herself. There's no need to worry. They're close to their final destination, Diel. That is where she hid the book from Barsha and where her final trap awaits. There, she will seduce Callior and eliminate Scarlet. But at the same time, since the Emperor is her former lover, she will remove them both. Meanwhile, Azar interrogates Baron about the mark. Baron, distraught, insists that even if he is not a pure Armin, he needs the mark. It is power beyond measure. He rambles incoherently, blaming both Armin and Scarlet. Azar informs him that Scarlet is not in the war zone. Baron freezes, then bursts into manic laughter. Calling Scarlet foolish, he claims she will die in DL and demands a feast to celebrate. Azar is left unsettled. Elsewhere, Scarlet's group is forced to retreat after waves of monster attacks. They take shelter in a nearby territory, only to realize they are heading towards DL. As the carriage moves, Scarlet confides in Glenn that something feels wrong. It is as if the enemies are guiding them into a trap within a trap. Even the captain agrees. The path to DL is too convenient, so it's suspicious. Charlian decides that they should camp for the night. Inside the tent on the same night as Glenn sleeps, Charlian enters the tent and quietly asks Scarlet if she has time to talk. Outside the tent, Scarlet notices something off about Charlian. She asks if something went wrong with his meeting, but he says nothing and instead offers for her to walk with him. As they enter the nearby woods, Charlian shows her the ring she gave him. He explains that it allows him to move with ease. Scarlet notices it glowing, and he confirms it shines whenever he fights the monsters. Gently holding his hand, she recalls Barsha's words, that mastering a sacred object brings great benefit, and smiles at him. Look at him practically glow just by her smile! Whipped? Her heart suddenly races. The thought of kissing him flashes through her mind, startling her enough to slap herself back to her senses. Charlian looks at her in surprise. Flustered, Scarlet shifts the topic, saying she has been reflecting on her prejudices just like how he forgets to call her Letty. Charlian finds this oddly endearing. She explains that when you dislike someone, your thoughts can become irrational. Charlian casually offers to deal with anyone who dislikes her, by imprisoning them. A bit much, Your Majesty. Scarlet flinches, quickly clarifying that it is not that serious. Instead, she admits she has grown suspicious of someone, though she cannot confirm it. She reveals her prophetic dreams, visions of Lady DL, of strange creatures, and of Glenn being called Lady DL's lover. Glenn looks like too much of a child than a lover. Charlian pauses, recalling the red-haired woman who once accused him of killing Glenn. He suggests Scarlet may have foreseen that encounter. When he presses her for more, she refuses, embarrassed. His laughter only makes her heart race faster. Afterwards, Scarlet insists on walking back alone, but in the woods she spots Glenn. She follows him. When he finally turns, his eyes are in a trance-like state. Charlian sits inside his dimly lit tent, studying a map while recalling what little he knows about Sherla DL. Soon, Count Clover and Count Lumen enter to deliver the information he requested. As Clover hands over the documents, he questions why such details are needed in the middle of the night. Charlian simply assures them it is nothing urgent. The report reveals that the current head of House DL is the younger brother of the previous Baron, while Lady Sherla is the daughter of the elder sibling. The territory itself is shrouded in thick fog, with no signs of anyone entering or leaving. Despite the suspicious nature of the information, Charlian smiles faintly. He suspects Scarlet's dislike toward Lady DL may stem from something more personal. Perhaps a quiet jealousy. Lumen finds the expression unsettling. Before he can comment, a spy rushes in, reporting that someone has been attacked in the woods. Lady DL. Typical damsel in distress. Meanwhile, Scarlet stands with Glenn outside the tent, urging him to return and rest. Glenn remains quiet, insisting nothing is wrong, yet his gaze lingers toward the direction of the DL manor. Scarlet admits she has never been there. Glenn hesitates, then reveals the manor feels similar to the place where he was once held captive. He says his instincts drove him out of the tent to confirm it. Scarlet, unaware of this detail, tries to lighten the mood by tickling him again, though Glenn quickly begs her to stop. Moments later, Glenn notices a stranger among them. Following his gaze, Scarlet sees Sherla speaking with Charlian. Without hesitation, she strides forward, calling out to Charlian by his nickname. He responds in kind. Scarlet acknowledges Sherla with a sharp, sarcastic tone, while Charlian casually brushes Scarlet's hair aside in front of her. Sherla can only glare. Sherla is me when I'm single and I see PDAs. Elsewhere, Barshas stands before a glowing lake. Its surface reflects the moon so clearly that it resembles the sky itself. When he reaches out, his hand disappears beneath its surface, and his reflection reveals his true form. This is no ordinary lake. It reveals truth, and once served to imprison the Demon King. Sherla feels different. From what Scarlet remembers, she is neither gentle nor kind, yet the woman before her carries a shifting presence. Even her features seem to change. It makes Scarlet question, is this really Sherla? Sherla explains it is her first time leaving the manor in a while, and that she encountered a dangerous monster. Almost shyly, she adds that Charlian saved her. Scarlet is unsettled. Sherla is supposed to be strong-willed, not soft and innocent. Her gaze shifts to Glenn. As he introduces himself, dizziness hits him. He recognizes the feeling and silently reminds himself to stay cautious. Scarlet notices his eyes remain clear, no sign of hypnosis. From this, she concludes Glenn likely has never met Sherla before, strengthening her suspicion that House DL is tied to the Black Wizards. Count Clover arrives yawning in irritation. He complains about the noise and orders everyone to end the conversation. Scarlet agrees with a nervous laugh. Before leaving, Clover tells Sherla to return to her manor, disturbed by the ominous wind around, blowing her hair, and then dismisses everyone. He is so sassy, no one is allowed to disturb Clover's beauty sleep. Inside the tent, Scarlet asks Charlian if Black Wizards can alter appearances. He says they can, but it usually leaves a trace. Sherla, however, seemed genuine, though concealment magic remains possible. A glowing blue bird interrupts them, settling on Scarlet's shoulder. Charlian identifies it as Barsha's mana, though Scarlet hesitates. His mana is pink. Still, it feels harmless. Then Glenn appears, disheveled. He reveals he has met Sherla before, and they were once betrothed. Charlian suggests visiting the manor for answers, but Scarlet feels a quiet pang that perhaps fate cannot be changed. Scarlet knows exactly what she is feeling. Jealousy. Scarlet sits quietly on her bed, replaying how Sherla and Charlian met. The thought alone tightens her chest, but she worries more if Sherla truly is tied to the Black Wizards. If Sherla could be pulled away from them, then perhaps things could return to how they were meant to be. After all, in the novel, Sherla is the one destined for Charlian. Scarlet is too kind. Unable to sit still any longer, Scarlet decides to visit him, telling herself she only wants to ask what he finds suspicious about Sherla. Nothing more. When she calls out to him, Charlian appears, dressed only in a robe, his chest partially exposed. Charlian invites her in. Is something brewing? Seated across from him, Scarlet lets out a bitter laugh, suggesting that perhaps he accepted Sherla's invitation simply because she is beautiful and innocent. Charlian says nothing. She continues, masking her feelings with humor, adding that if he ever finds someone else, he should inform her, so they can end their engagement. Charlian steps forward, leaning over her chair, one hand gripping its back. He warns her not to repeat such a joke, or he might lose control. Confused, Scarlet asks why, but he cuts her off. His voice is steady as he confesses that his heart longs only for her. Kneeling before her, he takes her hand and waits. Caught off guard, Scarlet insists she is not his ideal type and that she is nothing special. OMG, just kiss already! Charlian exhales in frustration, asking what she thinks he's doing. She answers honestly. He's trying to make her fall in love with him, while she is trying her best not to. He challenges her, asking why she hides behind such words instead of ending the engagement outright. Scarlet freezes. He might be right, but before she can respond, Charlian pulls her closer, lifting her hand, and presses a kiss against it. Charlian and Scarlet stand close, their hands still tightly intertwined as if neither of them wants to let go. The air between them feels warmer, heavier, filled with everything they have yet to say but already understand. Drawn to her, Charlian closes the distance and kisses her, lingering just enough to make it clear how much she means to him. OMG, they finally admitted their feelings! By the next day, reality quickly sets in. Charlian gathers the group and shares his suspicions about Sherla, clearly uneasy about the danger ahead. He urges Scarlet to stay behind where it's safe, but of course, she refuses without hesitation, determined to stand by their side. Scarlet then reveals everything she learned from the elders, explaining that her strange streak of luck might be tied to her mother's connection to Lashael. Charlian takes this in calmly, as if it only confirms what he had already suspected about her uncanny timing whenever she's with him. Before the conversation can settle, Clover jumps in, confidently taking over the meeting. He answers every question with ease, clearly trusting Charlian's experience when it comes to dealing with black wizards. With no time to waste, the group pushes forward through the poisonous fog. Thanks to the magical flowers given by the mysterious bird, they manage to pass through safely and eventually arrive at the DL Manor. They are greeted by Sherla. Scarlet maintains a polite front, engaging in conversation, but something feels off. The emerald eyes she once imagined so vividly now seem hollow and distant. That eerie feeling is definitely not a good sign. Charlian quickly takes control of the situation, questioning how Sherla knows Glenn and reminding her to be mindful of the young boy. Sherla responds with a gentle smile, agreeing without resistance. Yet beneath that calm exterior, her resentment burns intensely. Her thoughts consumed with the desire to take Charlian down herself. Sherla leads them through the manor, smiling sweetly. Her eyes dart occasionally, calculating, knowing her enemies are now suspicious. Scarlet notices Glenn's vacant stare again, and a chill runs down her spine. Could he really be under Sherla's control? How powerful is she really? The manor itself unsettles Scarlet. Something about it feels oddly familiar, like a memory she can't quite place. Her unease grows with each step, sensing the danger wrapped beneath Sherla's charming exterior. Meanwhile, Sherla's patience is wearing thin. Her scowl flashes each time she senses their suspicion, frustrated that her seduction failed on Charlian. Yet every glance at Scarlet stirs something she can't explain, a strange pull she can't ignore. Muttering under her breath, Sherla vows that Glenn will be hers after she eliminates anyone who stands in her way. Only then will her sacrifice be complete. In the forest, Baba hides silently, observing their movements. He isn't surprised that Scarlet and the others are advancing so quickly, but Glenn's fate weighs heavily on him. The boy is meant to die as a sacrifice, a cruel necessity for the Black Wizard's plan. Baba wonders why Glenn must suffer, realizing that any Lashael descendant left alive could inherit the power. Yet if Glenn dies, it could pass to Scarlet. He shakes his head, muttering over the tangled web of motives. Could Sherla even know Scarlet's bloodline? Or is she just a pawn in a larger scheme? Baba can't decide, but the question gnaws at him. What is the Black Wizard truly planning? Back at the manor, Charlian and Scarlet scour the place, yet find nothing out of the ordinary. Scarlet's worry rises, especially for Glenn, until her eyes land on him, covered in blood, passed out on the ground. She bolts, but her body betrays her as a sudden wave of pain throbs through her. Charlian catches her just in time, her protective abilities shielding her. His expression darkens when he senses an overwhelming surge of black magic coming from Glenn. Please don't tell me he's already dead. Scarlet slowly comes to, blinking away the lingering dizziness. Charlian rushes to her side, concern etched across his face, but Scarlet reassures him softly, promising to speak up if she ever feels unwell again. He looks like he wants to scold her, but she's too cute when she insists she's fine. The shadows quickly report Glenn's condition, speaking urgently about the black magic still lingering over him. Someone, or something, is controlling the boy. Samia recounts how Glenn's strange behavior started after the butler and a few others visited him, leaving everyone puzzled. Charlian immediately suspects a Dark Knight might be behind it, but they still can't pinpoint the culprit. With Glenn slowly recovering under the Shadow's care, Charlian, Scarlet, and the others begin brainstorming a new plan to eliminate the mysterious threat. Every detail matters. They can't afford mistakes. Later, as the others rest, Charlian and Scarlet find a quiet moment under the silver glow of moonlight. Charlian admits something he hasn't said before. Scarlet flushes, hiding her face, yet a small, shy smile escapes her. In a spontaneous moment, she pecks him on the cheek, confessing that she feels butterflies too. Charlian freezes for a second, caught completely off guard. Aren't they so adorable? Before they can lean closer, the fairies interrupt the moment, eager to show off their newest sibling. Everyone gathers around as Scarlet carefully holds the tiny newborn fairy in her palm. Astonishment spreads across their faces as they realize the fairy is none other than Glenn, now transformed. Scarlet giggles, struggling to hide her cuteness overload while explaining to Charlian that this transformation was urgent and necessary before they return to their quarters. I mean, can we even handle how precious this little fairy Glenn is? Scarlet studies the sacred bracelet carefully, then channels her power alongside the energy of the House of Armon. The moment she combines them, a radiant light bursts from her, drawing everyone's attention. When the glow fades, the once barren patch of dirt transforms, now covered in fresh green grass. The group stares in awe, realizing the extent of Scarlet's growing abilities. As she explains what just happened, she cannot ignore the strange connection between her power, Charlian's, and the artifacts they carry. Everything seems to align too perfectly, as if these events were never random to begin with. The thought unsettles her. Scarlet begins to feel like their roles were decided long ago, as if they were always meant to stand against the Black Wizard. Charlian listens carefully, then suggests they seek Baba for clearer answers. It is a decision they cannot delay any longer. Meanwhile, back at the capital, the elders gathered to discuss their findings. They inform Azar about their investigation into the golems, revealing that the Black Wizards may be using holy water in the temple's involvement. The situation grows even more alarming as they share what the elves uncovered. A demon god has interfered, possibly working alongside both the temple and the Black Wizard. Azar feels the weight of it all immediately. Facing the Black Wizards alone was already dangerous, but adding the temple and a demon god makes the threat far worse. The possibility of an attack looms heavily over them. That night, Scarlet quietly shares her worries with Charlian, fearing the capital has been left vulnerable. Charlian reassures her, explaining that the others have already arrived safely at the palace. Scarlet looks at him, confused by how certain he sounds. He quickly apologizes, gently insisting that everything will be all right. Scarlet lets out a quiet sigh, reminding herself that the capital is heavily guarded and unlikely to fall easily. Still, the evidence they have gathered feels incomplete, not strong enough to fully expose the Black Wizards. The thought lingers, frustrating her. Determined, she turns to Charlian and urges him to use what they already have. She wants the truth to reach people, especially to clear his name from all the judgment surrounding him. Charlian pauses, clearly caught off guard, realizing just how much she worries for him. Instead of answering right away, he reaches for her hand. Scarlet stiffens, her cheeks warming as her thoughts spiral. Charlian notices immediately and lets out a soft chuckle, trying to hold back his amusement. After teasing her just enough, he finally speaks honestly, admitting how deeply he feels for her. The way he says it so casually makes it even more breathtaking. The next morning, Azar contacts Scarlet with urgent news. He reveals that the temple is working alongside the Black Wizards and shares everything currently unfolding in the capital. His message is clear: finish what they started and return safely. As Scarlet prepares to meet Baba, the scene shifts to the forest, where Baba himself decides to seek them out, intending to join their side. Meanwhile, during their journey, Scarlet grows uneasy. A quiet suspicion forms, making her wonder if Baba has been hiding something all along. Charlian notices her silence and gently asks what is troubling her. Scarlet brings up her thoughts about the temple, suggesting they could damage its reputation first to gain the upper hand. Charlian considers her idea seriously and agrees, seeing the strategy behind it. By the end of the day, they finally reach the lake where Baba resides. Yet the moment Scarlet steps closer, she senses an overwhelming force surrounding the area. It feels deliberate, almost as if something is being concealed. She narrows her gaze, questioning Baba's true identity. Yeah, something is definitely not adding up here. Back at the DL Manor, Scarlet struggles to keep herself together. Her breathing turns uneven as panic and anger mix, her frustration spilling over when she bites down on her finger. Everything she planned is slipping out of her control, and it clearly drives her mad. Meanwhile, at the lake, Charlian suddenly notices his sword, Opere, reacting. The blade resonates with a strange energy, and through it, he delivers a message to Scarlet. The world will soon return to its complete form. Scarlet blinks in surprise, not expecting the sword to communicate so clearly. Her thoughts drift to Opere's origin, remembering how it was once a brilliant yet frail lord who chose to become a holy blade. The realization only makes her question how powerful the weapon truly is. Nearby, Clover listens carefully, his expression turning serious. He begins to wonder if the message refers to the deity the Black Wizards are trying to release. Charlian, Clover, and Samia exchange what they know about the demon god and other divine beings, trying to piece everything together. Charlian waits for more from Opere, then shares another message. A mysterious individual was the one who revealed this information. Scarlet immediately connects the description to Baba, her suspicion growing stronger. Charlian also questions why a high priest would allow sacred items to fall into the wrong hands. The group agrees on one thing. Baba knows more than he has revealed, and they need answers quickly. Scarlet, however, remains confident, believing Baba may be guiding them in his own way. She trusts him a little too much, but let's see where this goes. With a sudden grin, Scarlet grabs a nearby boulder and hurls it into the lake. The impact echoes loudly, drawing attention instantly. As expected, Baba rushes out, only to be captured immediately by the shadows. Did not expect that. Startled, Baba is restrained as Scarlet and Charlian confront him directly, pressing him for answers. When Charlian questions him about the world becoming whole, Baba falls silent, his thoughts drifting to a secret he never thought they'd uncover. Baba finally reveals the truth behind their world, connecting everything to the mysterious mirror. He explains that during the demon god's imprisonment, sacred objects were sent into a false world, causing the original world and the mirror realm to split. The mirror realm has since withered, left lifeless. He continues, describing how events in that other world repeat endlessly, as if time itself refuses to move forward. Once the two worlds merge again, everything will return to its original state, and they will become their true selves. Scarlet feels a chill run through her at the thought that their lives might only be reflections. That realization is actually terrifying if you think about it. Baba quickly warns them that the demon god must be defeated before that merge happens. According to him, the gods intend to make this false world become the real one. Charlian and Scarlet listen closely, though Scarlet cannot help but imagine the worst possible outcome. When she questions how they could possibly defeat a demon god without divine help, Baba drops a shocking claim. The deities they need are none other than Scarlet and Charlian themselves. Both are stunned, though Charlian remains cautious, questioning why Baba believes their world is the false one. Baba explains that the demon god controls the flow of time in this world, which means the real world has been frozen entirely. Even with this, Charlian continues to doubt, pressing him further. Scarlet adds her own question about the missing moon, and Baba reveals it was the first to fall into slumber. Despite the answers, confusion still lingers. The two begin to consider another possibility, wondering if the moon's deity might have been awake all along. That would actually be pretty cool. A moon god on their side? Their team would be so powerful. Elsewhere, in a dark chamber, the Black Wizard and Scarlet speak in hushed tones. They discuss a fallen ally who lost their sanity after using a sacred object. Scarlet grows frantic, pointing out their disadvantage against the descendants of the fallen gods and fairies. The Black Wizard pauses, stepping closer as her words catch his full attention. Scarlet nods, telling the Black Wizard about witnessing the fairy speaking with Scarlet and her group. The Black Wizard grips her shoulder, making her flare in anger. She demands why he never revealed Scarlet's connection to Lashael, swatting his hand away as she reminds him they need to act quickly. Before doubts can take hold, the Black Wizard warns her that the possession has only just begun. The demon god has decided to intervene personally, promising to destroy everything in sight. Sherla's eyes widen, her fear meeting his cold gaze, the glow of a dragon statue casting shadows behind him. "Girl, what do you think was gonna happen?" Meanwhile, Baba sits in stunned silence, realizing he had misjudged their world as primordial instead of the false one. He mutters to himself, imagining how devastating the demon god's power could be. Poor Baba. Even thinking about it makes my head spin as well. Scarlet suddenly suggests gathering all the sacred objects to return them to the deities, hoping it will kill the demon god. Charlian agrees immediately, and Baba, seeing the sense in their plan, gives his approval. Soon, Baba is free, and the group prepares to head for the temple, intending to strike before the temple strikes them. Days later at the capital, Baba retrieves his book, but 2 sacred objects are missing. He explains that the book appeared untouched, yet Scarlet notices that the divine energy she planted had been tampered with. Returning to the capital, the shocking truth hits them as they realize the 2 missing sacred objects have already been sacrificed to the demon god. Somewhere beyond the world, a mysterious figure who seems to control time watches silently. Muttering to themselves, declaring Scarlet must be the one sacrificed, leaving Charlian to face the evil alone. Meanwhile, the demon god awakens in human form. His followers, who had brought him 2 of the sacred objects, had already died to free him. Sitting upon a dark throne, he begins to lay out his plan, his eyes fixed on Scarlet as the intended sacrifice. Back at the capital, in the middle of the night, Scarlet is visited in her dreams. A goddess warns her of the demon god's awakening and explains the choice. Scarlet must sacrifice herself to ensure victory. With the goddesses and the moon deities' help, she can defeat him and return home safely. But first, she must break ties with Charlian to protect him. Scarlet wakes, irritated at the gods for meddling and demanding they clean up their mess. As the sun rises, she ponders the goddess's words, then calls out to her. The goddess responds cheerfully, confirming that Scarlet's plan has already been set in motion. With the gods awake and the strategy ready, Scarlet steels herself to end her engagement with Charlian. Moments later, the group finalizes their roles for the temple assault. Before leaving, Scarlet pulls Charlian aside, telling him firmly that their engagement is over, for his safety. Just like that? Poor Charlian! Baba arrives at the temple ahead of everyone, immediately searching for the demon god's vessel. With the help of the deities, he uses his power to seal the doors, preventing anything from escaping. By the time he rejoins the others, the temple is already in chaos, the high priest lying lifeless. Welp, things escalated fast. Outside, away from the others, Scarlet and Charlian face each other in a quiet moment. Scarlet tries to stay firm in her decision, but Charlian refuses to accept it, promising that his feelings will not change, no matter how much she pushes him away. Left with no choice, Scarlet explains her reasoning, revealing that the bonfire goddess told her, though she keeps one truth hidden. Even so, she makes a promise of her own. She will marry him once they win, as long as they void their contract for now. Charlian pulls her into his arms, lifting her slightly as he holds her close, expressing how much she loves him. The two share a quiet, heartfelt kiss before returning to the temple together. Despite the situation, they still deserve to be lovey-dovey. Inside, the demon god waits on his throne, unimpressed by their arrival. Charlian steps forward, shielding Scarlet as they prepare to act. At her signal, they use the sacred objects, filling the room with blinding light. Yet the demon god remains unmoved. Scarlet calls upon even more divine power, ignoring Baba's warnings. She stands firm, determined to defeat him without sacrificing anyone. The demon god stands unshaken, confronting Scarlet with fury. Just as he lunges to strike, Charlian thrusts his sword into the demon god, buying her a moment. The air explodes with a mix of fire and poisonous fog, but the fairies quickly swoop in, protecting them. OMG, look how big they've grown! Glenn suddenly appears, taking the sacred book from Scarlet. A blinding light erupts as the sacred objects return to their rightful owners. Shadows rush forward, clearing a path for her. A voice echoes in her mind, the gods trying once again to push her into becoming their sacrifice. Scarlet snaps, silencing their interference entirely. Yeah, our girl is finally putting her foot down! She slips off her shoes and charges at the demon god, leaping forward and smashing the book into his face. The impact sends a thunderous shock through the temple, signaling the demon god's defeat. Exhausted, Scarlet collapses into unconsciousness. A week later, Scarlet wakes in the Armin mansion. She asks Lady Melia for permission to see Charlian, brushing off her protests. She proudly reveals the mark of the House of Armin. Izar and Lady Melia are amazed, thrilled to see how far she has come. Lady Melia even offers to mentor her, helping her grow into a proper head of the Armin household. Scarlet nervously sweats at the thought. Dang, Lady Melia needs to chill. She literally just woke up after all. That night, beneath blossoming flowers, Scarlet meets Charlian under the moonlight. He proposes again, this time free from obligations, their feelings raw and true. Scarlet blushes deeply, saying yes. Ugh, my heart. Time flies and the day of the wedding arrives. Izar sniffles, trying to hide his tears even though his eyes are clearly swollen. Scarlet teases him for it. The ceremony continues smoothly, and as Vector moves to close it, Scarlet and Charlian steal the moment, sharing a kiss before he can. The crowd erupts into cheers. With the demon god defeated, the sacred object safe, and their hearts finally at peace, Scarlet and Charlian step into their new life together, ready to face whatever comes next, side by side. The perfect ending for our favorite couple. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!